following is a presentation of the iRacing Esports Network.
It comes to legacy, you will not find anything more iconic than this track for Australian motorsports. You can talk about Peter Brock, you can talk about Mark Scafie, you can talk about the likes of Craig Lowndes, you can talk about McLaughlin's, Van Gisbergen's, Whincups and Mosterts. But here in the virtual realm, you talk about the Phil Sells, the Rogers, the Hamsteads, you talk about the El Nabis, you talk about the Cougar Myers, you can talk about whoever you want to. This track makes or breaks legacies. Monaco on a mountain, 23 turns, Mount Panorama circuit in Bathurst. And it is qualifying, pre-qualification, shall we say, as we get ourselves ready for the racing that will go on tomorrow at a beautiful, beautiful Bathurst 1000 here on the iRacing Esports Network, of course, here with V8 Online. Hashtag Do You Mind Jake Sperry, joined with Reese Gardner and Cameron Dance. And Reese, this is a tough qualifying. Yes, we're talking about an hour's worth of qualification here, and we have a shootout to boot as well, which will come later on. But this first qualifying is going to be so vital. If you slip up in qualifying, if you have nothing you can recover yourself with, that's a long 161 laps to be fighting with.
Yeah, it certainly is. And 161 laps around a track like this, you know, Bathurst, it almost needs no introduction to people in the know about motorsport. It's a concrete jungle in the midst of a forest on top of a mountain. Those walls are close at all times. And the slightest mistake can really screw you over in terms of your lap time, in terms of your car, in terms of everything. It's really defined by how you nail this qualifying session. And then after this, you only get one chance in the top 15 shootout. So the drivers are going to find out today just how hard this track bites, as they have many times in the past.
And Cam, let's talk about why this is such an important weekend for Australian motorsports. Not only do we have the V8SCOPS Bathurst 1000, we also have the VSR Showdown that's been going on at Eastern Creek. And honestly, for Australian esports in itself, this is an absolutely huge weekend. Well, it seems that we can't hear Cam. That's a little bit awkward, but hopefully we can get Cam sorted in just a few moments. But Reese, we're about 10 seconds away from the start of qualifying, and track position around here, absolutely vital, because you're talking about a track where for half of it, you can't overtake.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You know, qualifying with all these cars out on track, obviously the shootout is what gets all the publicity at Bathurst in terms of qualifying. But this qualifying session, you are not alone on this circuit, and it's hard enough to overtake during the race. When you're held up behind a slower car on a qualifying lap, it is absolutely horrific, and the drivers are going to find that out pretty soon as they come out onto the track to start this 1-hour qualifying session. Leading the way is Forzan El-Nabi from Treat Sim Sports Black, and he will get the best of it on this first run.
Well, I tell you what, what a fantastic group we have. El-Nabi, Hobson, Rickon, Maloney, Postlethwaite, then Kyle Stokes and Jordan Ross. This is a pretty stacked front of the field, and making sure that you're not held up is always going to be difficult, but it's also worth talking about this one as well. Cam, I hope we have you in the conversation. Reese, it may pass to you if we still can't hear Cam. It may just be down... Well, I think we've got you now, Cam, so nice to hear you for the first time in this broadcast. Cam, if someone makes a mistake up that mountain on the outlap, there's trouble for about 30 cars.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one thing you don't want to see is a car parked in front of you across the racetrack and pretty much the line of the racing line. So it's, going to be very, very tricky for a lot of these guys. I'll probably take it easy on the outlap, and it's looking very, very busy at the moment with cars everywhere, trying to find space and room and a bit of racetrack everywhere. So it's going to be interesting to see who possibly gets held up and who's actually going to have the luxury of nice, clean on the racetrack.
I tell you what I've seen that's interesting. I've seen Thomas McMillan in the ASM Cash-centric car just get overtaken at Brock's Skyline by Sam Blacklock, who's desperately trying to stay with that number one championship-leading car of Jared Filsell and Harrop Engineering there, Reese. I think Sam Blacklock wants the draft. Of course, a driver or in a team along with Luke Harvey that doesn't get enough recognition, I think, for being so good at what they are able to do. I think he wants toe off of the quickest man in the field, potentially.
Yeah, certainly, and you know that's going to be worth quite a bit. Bathurst is known for, you know, its turns that go up and down and side to side across that mountain. But you got to remember, there's two very long straights here where draft is everything. You got Mountain Straight, out of turn 1 towards turn 2 over the rise, and then coming out of Forest Elbow, you got Conrod Straight in the run to the chase. And if you're able to get into the draft of someone down those straights, it's going to pay dividends in terms of your lap time. So Blacklock doing exactly what he needs to do here as they are all starting their first laps now. We'll see what kind of time he can come up with as we focus on Forzan and Nabi for now. Forzan, of course, being fastest in the practice session, so this could be pretty significant if he's able to get a clean lap in. It looks like he will for this first run.
For the first moments, but you cannot say anything for the moment. Up the hill through the left-handers as they head through Solomon Park, through the Frog Hollow, now heading towards McPhillamy Park, right on the limit here at 200 kilometers an hour. Light lift as he hits the curb on the inside and the outside, and now into Brock's Skyline. Fantastic. Right, left, and right, dancing down the hill as you head into this big left-hander that always seems to catch drivers out through the Big Dipper and then looking to the very notorious Forest Elbow and onto the mountain straight. Cam, that was about as textbook as you'll find it, as the car behind of El Nabi, Brenton Hobson, has a massive right front lockup.
Yeah, absolutely. That looked very, very textbook from Forzan there. Great lap over the top of the mountain. It's looking like it's going to be quite a good lap. He got fairly close to the wall of Forest Elbow as well, so it's going to be a very, very good lap. But Hobson's got a little bit of a draft from El Nabi as well, so these two are going to be looking to have a pretty good lap by the looks of it.
Well, it seems so at the moment, coming out to the chase and a little bit of a wiggle there from the rear end, trying to run it to Murray's corner, the final corner out on track and into said final corner and out onto this very short run to the start-finish line. El Nabi comes across 2:05.7, opens up proceedings as we look at Jared Filsell, Postlethwaite coming down in onto pit road for his first time, not working as Ethan Grigalt moves to a 2:05.4, instantly jumping up. TTL's 92 in second position, but there's Filsell, 2:05.306, and that is pole by 10th and a half, for now, at least here, Reese.
Yes, indeed, and the number 215 car managed to put it in provisional 6th for now, 2:05.743. So Trans-Tasman Racing once again looking like the team to beat here in the very early stages of this qualifying session, but we got to remember that 15 car not too far behind. They the last round at Imola for the 500 was an absolutely fantastic battle between the 92, the 15, and the number 1, and we're already seeing that happen again here at Bathurst. I do want to keep an eye on that 15 because they came so close to winning at Imola in the last round, but unfortunately faltering right at the end, settling for third. So this could mean a lot for them.
It certainly could, and of course we've got to keep an eye on that top 15 cutoff. At the moment, on the bubble is the 027 Evolution Racing Team car, powered at the moment by Cooper Webster. Driving around at the moment, Joe Burkett just in front right now, but this is very telling here, Cam, because that top 15 is going to be very heavily contested, and the earlier you get a good lap time in, the easier it becomes later on, because of course that track is just going to rubber in and get a little bit hotter and a little bit more difficult more and more as this race goes on. Currently the first team out as things stands would be the Zuba Racing 208 with Chris Coxhead behind the wheel.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty much mandatory that you get your quickest lap in on that first lap with the number of cars on track tonight. So it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen in this hour-long qualifying session. We have seen in the past, we saw it for the Holland last year, that as the session went on, the track did cool down a little bit, and you started to see guys go a little bit quicker and quicker from those down the field. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in these warm conditions today at Bathurst.
Well, it certainly is. Track conditions then, as things stand, 38 degrees on the track, only 20 degrees though in the air, so it is hot track conditions. Winds, heavy winds actually, 19 kilometers an hour coming in from the north. Now that's going to be interesting, as I just see the Craig Moretta Racing black car of Craig Jones have a bit of a moment, the 111. Not helpful in 33rd position there, Reese.
No, certainly not. Of course, CMR, the winners of the of the livery competition sponsored by West End Mazda for last retro round at Imola, they've come out once again with a nice retro livery. Craig Jones just running straight on there in the S's, obviously abandoning this lap time there down in 36th position. This field, this first run of lap times has come to a close, and out of those first attempts, we've seen some pretty good performances from quite a few teams. I'm particularly impressed with Thomas McMillan in the number 59 ASM Cash-Centric car. He's managed to put that thing in third.
Well, let's just talk about that for a second, because you look at Thomas McMillan, he's not someone on paper, Cam, that stands out as a strong driver. But I would say that Bathurst is probably his strongest track of the lot, and a lot of people have overlooked the fact that Thomas McMillan, on game day, turns up.
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually really good to see McMillan all the way up there in third position. I do know he actually does favour Bathurst quite a bit, and I know a lot of guys do tend to have Bathurst as their quote-unquote main track, as you'd say. So it's really, really good to see that car up there, and it'll be interesting to see how they go in the shootout should they stay inside that top 15, which it's looking like they should be comfortably.
Well,
we got a car stop, guys. Sorry, got a car stop. That's the number 23, Jeremiah Morton at the wheel of the Lit Motorsports red car. That's on the run up to the cutting. That's a bit of a dangerous spot to be stopped in. Obviously, we do have the no escape rule in these qualifying sessions, so Morton can't just hit the escape key and go back to his virtual garage. He has to wait for approval from race control to get that car back to the pits, but obviously some kind of issue with the 23, and that will be a bit of a distraction to the drivers out there trying to set their next lap time.
That's almost on the racing line heading into the cutting, so it is a big distraction on that braking point. I know drivers sometimes want to take that tighter line into the corner. Jeremiah Morton not very close at all, and I think he has to go and get something out, or the stewards have to do something at this stage, because it is very, very dangerous to have a car parked pretty much on the apex. As we get a replay of exactly what has happened, Cam, I think you had a better eye on that one than I did.
Yeah, it looked like he just blew the engine possibly. I'm not actually sure as I didn't actually see it myself, but yeah, that's a really bad position to have a car.
Well, we will see exactly what has happened to that then. It's up on your screen as things look, but that's one of the unpredictabilities that you see around this, as 10 minutes of the hour have already expired here, Reese. So 50 minutes left here in practice. Reminds you of the old 1990s Formula One style qualifying. You have an hour and however many laps to set. But you look at that, it's the unpredictabilities, and it may have been that he's run out of fuel, and that is cardinal if you miss your box potentially.
Yeah, certainly is. I mean, on the run up, I noticed that into turn 1, he went into the gravel trap, and then the car's revs just dropped as soon as he got back onto the track. So that's a very mysterious incident there for Jeremiah Morton. But for Lit Motorsports, it's put paid to the rest of their qualifying session, and they will only be hoping to start from 31st at best.
Well, that's going to hurt as we look at Glenn Postlethwaite at the moment, who is into the 10, so he's got himself doing an okay job at the moment as things stands, Cam.
He's not doing too bad at the moment. It's looking like he's fairly comfortable and fairly strong in the car at the moment. His laps have been quite good in his lap that he actually put in as quite good as well. That's put him in that position, so I'd say that he'll probably actually be one to watch in the race as well, especially as we've seen in the past that team's been quite strong as well.
It certainly has. I tell you who is surprising, that is Marlon J. McMullen Racing, driven by Marlon J. McMullen here. He's currently in 8th position as qualifying stands, 6/10 off of pole position, but that's not bad at all for where they're looking at. Bubble now changes. It's now the SSR Eaton Racing 018 that now finds itself on the bubble as things stand. Just look at the drivers who've been in that. They've got Carl Stokes, Scott Nolan, all there waiting to get in. So Carl Stokes has just put a car inside the top 15, and nobody would have seen that coming.
Yeah, certainly. Carl Stokes and Scott Nolan in that number 018 car. They've like the rest of Synergy Sim Racing, been consistent in their representation, but currently on the bubble of the top 15, certainly that's a good result for those guys, as we're looking at Cooper Webster right now in the 027, currently in 16th, so it's going to be up to him now to try and get that car back into the top 15, 2 thousandths separating him from a spot in the shootout. So I tell you what, it seems like it's easy on paper to find 2 thousandths of a second, but around a track like Bathurst, in a car like this, in a field like this, it's a little bit easier said than done, I'd say.
Oh, it is a little bit easier said than done, and I think Cooper Webster's hoping for a little bit of draft. He's got a couple of helpers in front. One is Joe Burkett, who is 17th position, and he himself only a few hundredths he is searching for here to get himself into the top 15. And there's Glenn Postlethwaite, who's dragging the entire train along in 10th position, but slows down to let everybody go by and says, you know what, I'm going to use you guys now as a way to move forward as they make their way down the Conrod Straight, looking for the chase once more. And this is one of the most fantastic straights that you will find in all of motorsports, Cam, because it's up, it's down, it forces the bumps, and then you've got this brave right-hander. How flat do you dare go? As off the circuit goes Joe Burkett, as he has a little bit of a struggle in the TTL car. This allows Cooper Webster a moment. Hello, big slide, and onto the lane you'll go.
Yeah, just want to also carry on with that, what you were saying about Conrad. It's one of the most committed straights you ever find, especially to get the run out of the corner, out of Forest Tailbone, and head down towards the chase. And I can categorically tell you, trying to pull up a ton and a half a race car at the speed you're going when you enter the brake zone is not easy by any means. So it's really a corner that brings out late breakers and is, yeah, just a corner you really got to be committed in.
One team has not set a time. That is the Hyper Stimulator TTL Esports 28, and that is Richard Hamstead's number 28 car as well. Hamstead, a 2-time winner here at Bathurst 1000s race. Surprising to not see him set a lap time yet, but he's got all the time that he wants to try and make that happen. But a lot of drivers going, okay, we're just going to ease off and decide not to do anything for a moment because there's a lot of safety, shall we say, with some of the times. A second, you're probably safe if you've got a second around here.
Yeah, I'd say so for sure. And I think another benefit that that will be seen when drivers end up taking a bit of a rest for this middle part of the session is that the track may start cooling down again. It might speed up and you'll have another chance to try and improve on your lap times. Perhaps Richard is waiting for such an occasion as the track has actually dropped a full degree in temperature. So if Richard wants to go out and have a go, now is the time.
It certainly is the time, and you can see that how there are not many drivers now out on circuit. Just seeing Middle Finger Racing and Jackson, Sosel and Harlow actually just cut over the chase chicane there, just trying to get out of the way and onto pit road, and he will do so exactly how he wants to. But, you know, Cam, this is where, in the middle of qualifying, this is where you see surprises. Watch Glenn Postlethwaite for the moment, for example, in 10th position. He is safe just by a tenth of a second right now as he charges to the line.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that happy hour, more or less, of qualifying where you'll start to find guys going a little bit quicker and just start to find those increments of time. At the moment, is Postlethwaite's actually just done his quickest lap. It hasn't improved on his position, but he's gone quicker. But like we said, just those increments of time, you'll start to see guys have like Postlethwaite had there, and by the end, it should see a few surprises, and especially with that track change dropping, it's rather interesting, but there are a lot of cars in pit lane at the moment.
There are a lot of cars on pit road, and right now it's also worth talking about this one as well. Drivers may be using this qualifying session release to try and get new drivers into the car. For example, the Evolution Racing Team 15 had Greg Gold at the start of the session. Now Ian Ford's behind the wheel.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, you know, this qualifying session being an entire hour long, obviously you're only going to get a few good laps out of that as we watch the 208 Chris Cox head at the wheel of that one. Ian Ford jumping in, it's good because it allows your second driver to get some time in the car. They could maybe test out a few new setup changes that they'd be working on up until the race start, because, you know, the drivers in this series, they will work until the very last moment to try and get their cars as optimized as they can. So obviously a session like this, a very good opportunity to get some extra track time.
It certainly is, and I think I've just seen the Zuva Racing 209 move up to 8th on our timing stands. That was Brett Loxton with a fantastic lap time, and Zuva Cam, they've been hovering in and around that middle of the pack sort of feel, along the likes of Redback and Synergy. They've been sort of that second tier, almost like a Force India, shall you say, in Formula One, trying to push up to that higher level, and 8th at the moment. That will stand them in great stead for what they want to do as Loxton heads his way down Skyline.
Yeah, absolutely. They've actually come quite a ways since their beginning. I know only last year we saw them around that mid to back of the pack sort of area, but now they've actually really come a long way in this season. So it's been really, really good to see the improvements that they made and see them up that point end of the field. So we'll see what happens.
And at P12 goes Coxhead, so that bumps down the SSR Eaton racing car of Kyle Stokes. It now puts Riley Blythe's Evolution Racing Team 25 on the bubble as we look ourselves at the number 8 car, at the, 18 car, sorry, at the moment of Michael Healy. So Healy right now, looking where he is, he's currently in 19th position on a 2065. Michael Healy, he's been up there. He was right up at the front of the field at Sonoma Reese until he had to come down in and make his stop. But really, looking for another TTR car to be inside that top 15. Currently, they have 3 inside of the top 7. They want 4 inside of the top 15.
Yeah, they certainly do. And, you know, Trans-Tasman Racing is going to be one of those teams to try and shoot for that. Healy driving with Lee Ellis in car number 18, just getting overtaken there by the number 59 car, which remains in 3rd position. But Healy at the moment, he has got only 3 tenths or so to find to get himself into the top 15 here. And once again, it becomes a question of how much of a risk do you take? You have plenty of opportunities to try and eke out some extra time around Bathurst, but it can all go wrong, even right at the start of the lap at Hell Corner. So Healy just coming across the line now to start his next hot lap. We'll see how this one turns out.
We certainly will see. We'll stay with Michael Healy's vehicle and see exactly what he is able to do. I would maybe like to see Lee Ellis give himself a chance, maybe in the second half of this qualifying session. I do believe that Lee Ellis is the quicker driver, but we do see it. Some drivers prefer certain tracks compared to others. Maybe this is not quite a track that Lee Ellis is suiting. Maybe that's why this is one of the reasons Michael Healy is taking the qualifying effort.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what the strategy behind Trans-Tasman Racing putting Healy instead of Lee in the car is. Healy getting very sideways through the car. It looks like he might have backed out of his lap, which it looks like it has. So that's rather unfortunate, but like you said, some drivers do prefer certain tracks. I know both Healy and Lee do enjoy this track quite a bit, but it's going to be really, really interesting as we've got Wayne Burke on screen at the moment in the 89 machine.
Yeah, and Wayne Burke, who has got himself race victories this season, has been right up there, surprisingly, down the order in the Track Stars Racing Synergy Sim Racing 89 machine, currently in 21st position as things stands, Reese. And Wayne Burke has really come up to the forefront and said, you know what, I can race with Jared Filsell, I can race with everyone at the top level. He's now got to find the consistency.
Yeah, he certainly does. And, you know, I guess you can say that about just about everybody in the Synergy Sim Racing squad. They've always been one of those teams that is just on the verge of competing with the top teams and have on one or two occasions, but they've remained in that bubble just around the top 5 to, I'd suppose, top 15 sort of deal. And Wayne Burke, one of those drivers that has been around for quite some time. He's had a lot of experience in these cars, and he's trying his best here to try and get himself up the order, just going past the 035 car there on the run up to Forest Elbow this corner. You're seeing a lot of drivers taking that early apex, firing it straight to the inside, trying to get the best run that you can onto Conrod Straight. And, you know, just bringing it back briefly to our discussion earlier about Ellis and Healy, I think that Bathurst is one of those tracks that certain drivers are just better at than others, and that's why you're seeing teams put in what you would say is unexpected drivers for these sessions.
Oh, you certainly do see that. I've seen certain drivers just have an affinity. Talk Gregor Hutu, for example, at Watkins Glen. Here comes Burke, though, charging for the line. We'll see what he's able to do this time. He does improve, and by a good half a second, up to 12th position. Synergy Sim Racing now 10th, 11th, and 12th. It knocks out Evolution Racing Team, and now it's the Watercraft Racing SSR car of Jordan Ross on the bubble.
Yes, indeed. Looking currently finishing a lap is the number, that's Sean Kelly there, number 31. We'll see where he puts this car. Looks like there may be no improvement on this lap. Currently sitting on a 206.7, and it looks like that lap is actually invalidated. So unfortunate for Sean, but we'll see how he goes in the next 37 minutes of the session.
And Cam, let's just talk a little bit at the moment about just how difficult this top 15 is, because for the main players, shall we say, the likes of the TTLs and the Trans-Tasmans and the Evolution Racing teams who are fighting for the championship, this is business as usual. But you have to remember that 77 also needs to be up there doing a good job. Only 4 tenths off at the moment in qualifying, but when the 77 is in position number 7, you have to wonder, is that car going to be up there, and is it going to be fighting, or is it going to be damage limitation for Madison Down and Jake Burton when it comes to what they will be able to do?
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be not only damage limitation, as Kelly's actually just put himself in the fence there.
Wow, we just saw that one then coming up through Griffin's Mount and through that left-hander. That was where Lauren Heinrich had his big moment as my voice temporarily decides to leave me. That was at ADAC Sim Racing Expo. Such a difficult section. It's a right-left switchback, and there is no margin for error there, Reese.
No, certainly not. That's one of the places where the walls are at their closest. Obviously, the track wasn't always like this with the concrete walls. It was actually completely open up the top when the track was first built, and down Conrod Straight, you had wooden picket paddock fencing to deal with. But now, as safety standards have improved in motorsport, that track has just become, obviously it is safer because you can't go tumbling down the hill when you make a mistake, but once you hit those concrete walls, it's goodbye.
It certainly is. The top 16 vehicles are split by 1 second as things stand in qualifying. There's a Rachel Whiteford 1 second bracket that we do like to talk about here in sim racing. But there are teams who maybe aren't in the best positions but want to charge. One of them is ASM Ratcore at the moment, the 61 team, and they find themselves, Thomas Hinz behind the wheel at the moment, looking to try and knock on the door. They are in that 4/10 barrier, but you've got teams like Geodesic Racing, you've got teams like Beast Racing, that of course is iRacing stuff, Drew Adamson's team, and you've got the likes of RRT, Progression Racing Australia, all looking to try and knock on that door, Cam, and go, please let me in the top 15, I can prove that I'm worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got so many teams, and the issue is it's so close that it's so difficult to get inside that top 15. I mean, from 1st to 15th, it's less than a 10th, and then second, and it's just over a second from 1st to 17th. So it's just absolutely mind-blowing how close it is and tough, and you don't actually realise how tough it actually is until you're in the driver's seat trying to get that lap time in that's going to put you in that position to be within a chance of possibly winning this race. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting as it's looking very busy heading up the mountain as well for Hinsey there, with cars stopped all over the track. But one thing we do have to remember is that this is Bathurst. This is a 1,000-kilometre race, 161 laps, and there's been many strange things. We've seen fuel, we've seen damage, we've seen crashes, we've seen all sorts of drama happen in this 1,000-kilometre race in the past. So it's not hard to actually possibly get a good result and even win this race from starting quite far back in the field. But again, you do have to play your cards right and just make sure that you do get to the end so that you can get a good result, as it sounded like Hinsey actually just did nick the wall there coming down the start.
And if you mix that wall, then you'll get a 0x contact incident, which doesn't mean anything for too much, but it will invalidate the lap. And that's another point that drivers are going to be very frustrated with. How close do you push it to the barriers? You cannot make contact with the barriers at all, Reese, when it comes to that one flying lap.
No, you certainly can't, because one little bit of contact registered by iRacing's incident detection system means that the lap will be completely invalidated. You just won't set a lap time straight up. And that is certainly one thing you want to avoid, especially around a track like this. The problem is, and I've noticed this ever since Bathurst came out for iRacing, particularly among the Australian community, everyone seems to think that they have a chance of being the best at Bathurst. It's one of those tracks that has that effect on people. I suppose like Spa or the Nordschleife if you're European. And so drivers end up taking quite big risks around this place, and you end up seeing a lot of just slight little mistakes pushing that limit just a few more millimeters.
You sort of have to try and rein yourself in and just try and be as disciplined as possible when it comes to driving. But Cam, we're heading to the halfway stage. Who's been your biggest surprise of qualifying so far?
That's a very good question, actually. I would probably have to say McMillan in the ASM 59 car, the Pursuit Sim Racing 777 car in 14th, and one other thing that's probably quite surprising is the fact that there's actually not that many Evolution Racing cars inside the top 15 either.
No, there certainly isn't right now. You can currently only count the one inside of the top 15. That, of course, is the car in second position. Reese, your surprises then in the opening half.
I would have to agree with Cam on what he said. I'd also probably include the Zuva racing cars, currently sitting in 8th and 13th. That's pretty special for them, but once again, got to come back to that hyperstimulator TTL Esports number 28 car. Richard Hampstead has still not gone out and set a lap time. We're almost at the session's halfway point, just a few seconds.
And if they can't get anything sorted, then they may be in so much trouble starting from 49th. And we talk about what happened last year, Reese, when it came to the Bathurst 1000, and how Jared Filsell had to fight so hard to get a podium from how far back he was. This is going to be a very, very similar situation.
Yeah, it certainly is. You know, last year's Bathurst 1000, we had quite a few teams with dramas. I remember Jason Dixon driving for TTL Esports last year, had to ended up doing almost the entire race on his own and not actually being able to be classified because his co-driver didn't end up getting to the car. So, you know, these are the kinds of dramas that you have in a team endurance event like the Bathurst 1000. 6 hours this race takes to complete at least, give or take a few cautions. And obviously, you need to jostle around your schedules a bit to accommodate for that. Sometimes drivers just can't do it.
Well, there is one car that I haven't seen actually take to the track or actually get found in the list, and that is the Apex Replicas TTR car. I know there's already one in here, but Cam, no Emily Jones, and no Kurt Stenberg.
Yeah, no, that's a little bit different of a different weekend because Emily's driving with a completely different co-driver to what everybody would expect, and that is Adam Highland of the number 47 car.
So Adam Highland then, that's where I haven't done my research, and I will hold my hands up and apologise profusely to Trans-Tasman Racing, but Adam Highland then making the charge and currently just set his fastest lap of the day in 22nd position. That's good, but still 4/10 off of where they need to be and almost into the wall there. I think he even had a clip.
I'd say that was a sight more than a clip. He ended up getting up on two wheels. So Adam Highland with some pretty substantial damage to that car as a result of that. So he's going to have to bring the 47 back in replay. Thanks, of course, to CPR Kart Parts. Just that is such a difficult corner to get right because you're struggling with the front end through that section. You've got to make sure that you don't understeer up the hill and get into that wall.
Oh, yes, you're absolutely right. At the moment that you hit that wall, bang, up on two wheels, did very well to keep that one in. 018 car, though, is on a flying lap. This is the SSI Eaton racing car. Carl Stokes, who had a very good opening qualifying lap, put himself up inside the top 15, has been bumped down 17th. A little bit of a lock, though, through the cutting and had to be so careful there. And Cam, you're keeping an eye on this lap here. This isn't precision racing that sim racers want to aspire to. This is pretty much try and keep that car as straight as possible, but it's sliding around like an octopus on a ship.
Yeah, it is. It's looking like it's going to be a rough lap there as he gets right out on the grass, right up against the walls, using every millimetre of racetrack there, and he's trying to get the car to do what he wants to do, but it doesn't appear to be all that comfortable as he's really having to wring its neck out to try and get some pace out of it. I think he might have actually off-tracked it across the top of Skyline there on the grass, but we'll see what happens at the end of this lap as he's coming down on Conrod Straight, and he's got a little bit of a draft from the car ahead of him, so we'll see what this lap is coming down just under the Fuso Bridge. 200, 280, 290, just at the turning point for the chase, hard on the brake, down to second gear, coming into the chicane at the end of the chase, right up over the curb. It's going to be an ASM car in front of him, getting really sideways on the exit under the Armor Bridge down towards Murray's Corner for the final corner in the second gear. It's looking like it's going to be an okay lap, getting on the bar as early as he can, but it's getting really sideways. That would be a 206.4, not going to improve.
Not going to improve on that lap, but we have seen a change though at the top 15, because now the SSR Watercraft racing car, Jordan Ross, has just jumped up into 13th place on a 206.169. That now puts Pursuit Sim Racing in a little bit of issues. Michael Taliancic behind the wheel of that 777 car. And that's going to be telling. We were talking about 206.3s as being the cutoff point at the start of this event, Reese. It's now down to 206.2s, and I wouldn't be surprised if it went to 206.1s in the next 15 minutes, and then 206 flats by the end of the event.
Yeah, well, we'll see how that goes, certainly, because, the stakes have definitely been raised with that. Riley Blythe, I think, currently starting a lap to try and pip Talyancic to that 15th position, possibly better. Of course, Evolution Racing Team recently coming into some sponsorship with Speed Cafe, motorsport news site in Australia. Pretty good score for those guys. Getting into the wall is Riley Blythe. So that little bit of campaign to try and get into the top 15 is over for now. He's going to have to wait at least 4 more minutes to try and have another run at that.
And that's the thing, if you make mistakes up the mountain here, Cam, it's not just now that you're talking about, okay, you've abandoned the lap. You've got to do an out lap once more. You've got to go down onto the lane and fix the car and then set up again. And on a 2-minute 5 lap time, like it is here at Bathurst, that's a lot of time that you cannot afford to keep losing again and again and again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You cannot afford to lose a single minute here, especially when you're going to be spending roughly 6 to 4 minutes, depending on what happens on your lap previously. So it's a very, very important thing that you don't waste any time, especially in a qualifying session like this, where you're trying to get inside that top 15, because every single second is going to count, and every single second you waste is not going to help.
I wonder if we can get a replay of the geodesic racing car. Blake Neck was turned around right in the middle of, I believe it was that downhill section after Skyline racing. Well, he's lucky that nobody else has taken contact with him. He's just got himself onto the lane now, but Blake Neck, that's not what you want to be doing.
No, certainly not. Almost blocking the track there through the S's. It looks to me like as we go to that replay, he just lost it over the curb, did Blake, and the car just slid one way, then another. He was desperately trying to get that thing back under control, but he went straight into the wall, and unfortunately that put paid to that one. And it is a bit of an awkward position to get into there, because there's almost no space for you to try and get around. But he's managed to get back to the pits, and they can keep going.
Well, that's the crucial factor as well. Once you get to the pits, you can get a new car and you can get yourself back out and racing again. The only thing you can't do, though, is basically get yourself off the track instantly and then get that new car. Of course, V8SCOPS prides itself on its realism, Cam, and, that's been one of the things that has done well. Safety cars have completely changed the way that races like these work. It's just bringing it that much level closer, which I don't think that you can find on many other different simulators.
Yeah, absolutely. Things like safety cars, race control, all that sort of stuff you tend to find in an actual real-life race really enhances the event, in that it actually makes it that much more like a much more realistic, and it really is great to see in Scops. We, for example, can't escape and have to ask for permission, or you have to be aware of safety cars and that sort of stuff. So it's going to be really, really good, as we've actually got Joe Burkett starting lap as he heads up Mountain Straight at the moment.
Cam, can I ask you a question? I believe you are the co-driver of Joe Burkett's at the moment. When are you getting in the car?
That would be tomorrow. And the co-driver of Joe Burkett. Bit of an interesting story behind what my co-driver enduro campaign has been. I was originally going to be driving with Stuart Vaughan in this Endurance Cup, and unfortunately he had to pull out the last minute at Imola, so I had to drive with Sam, and unfortunately Sam can't do Bathurst this weekend, so I've ended up driving with Joe, and at the rate it's going, I'm probably going to be driving with someone else at Montreal.
Josh Rogers?
Well, I wouldn't mind it.
I bet you wouldn't. But right now, they're currently in 19th position here, Reese. Only a 10th of a second off of where they need to be. Scratch that 800th, but into the wall, heading through the Big Dipper. And Joe Burkett, Oh dear me, that was a little bit hairy-scary there, and there was the fine margin shown once again down the mountain.
Yeah, certainly. Harry McClary from Donaldson's Dairy, Joe Burkett was doing there. So, unfortunately, that's that lap abandoned. They will have to find in excess of a 10th to get into the top 15. As we now look at the 027 car, currently in 18th place. Cooper Webster still wringing every bit of pace that he can out of that car to try and get them into top 15, being followed by Ian Ford in the sister car, the number 15. So, Evolution Racing Team, very differing fortunes here at the moment. They've got two cars that are on the verge of getting into the top 15 if they can just find another 10th or even less.
Well, I ask you this one here now, Cam, and that is, do you switch over the positions between Ford and also the driver being Cooper Webster in front? Mainly because you've got Ian Ford, who's second right now, probably safe in this qualifying session. Surely he wants as many cars in as possible, so give the draft to Evolution Racing Team, give them an opportunity to attack.
Yeah, I agree with you there, but I'm not exactly sure what's the tactic that Evolution Racing Team are trying to achieve here, whether they're actually trying to help Ian set a better time or what the story is. But yeah, you'd think that they'd all work together in some extent and try and get as many cars inside that top 15.
No improvement then, a 206.552. No improvement on the 206.357, which was set very, very early. And this is also something that we're going to see if we look at the 95 of Glenn Postlethwaite, because right now it's 4 Synergy Sim Racing cars in a line right now in terms of qualifying, but there's 3 in a line on track. The draft train is in full effect here, Reese.
Yeah, it certainly is. And, you know, that particular draft train will be fantastic coming down Conrod Straight. These 3 Synergy Sim Racing cars, all in 3 differing liveries. That's Glenn Postlethwaite driving the Posse's Mechanical Repairs Holden Commodore. Got Brenton Hobson in the 88 with that Marlboro McLaren-inspired livery that looks very nice on that 88 car, and Jordan Ross in the Watercraft-sponsored machine there. So these cars all look incredibly different, but they are all part of the same racing organization. So these guys all looking to try and help each other get up the order. All 3 of them currently in the top 15 as it stands, but they would like to improve.
They certainly would, as they head down the Forest Elbow and make that charge. They have a couple of vehicles trying to get through Jackson, Soslin, Harlow. And hello, I spy just in front a certain Richard Hampstead looking to set his first flying lap then after 42 minutes of no times being set here. Cam, Hampstead is out to race.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's actually one very interesting addition to this lap that he's currently doing, and that'll be that he is in VR. He's originally raced on monitors, and this is his first time actually racing in VR at home. So this will be interesting to see what happens. And he's actually been racing on VR all day pretty much in the VSR Showdown. So going to be interesting to see what sort of lap he's going to do as he gets quite sideways on the exit curve there out of our corner.
Well, at the moment, Beast Racing will be very happy because Simon Mazzomo can actually say he's quicker than somebody at the moment, albeit a lap time hasn't been set. But for the moment, at least here, charging his way up towards Quarry Corner, turn number 2. Maybe he misses the apex by a good half a foot, maybe upwards towards 2 feet there, Reese. This is a tentative lap. This is probably a banker lap we're seeing here from Hampstead.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, in a qualifying session at Bathurst, a banker lap is the best kind of lap you can go for.
Oh, wow! That was Blake Beck, who was in the wall coming out of turn 5 and absolutely jammed in the wall. Big wiggle into the wall. It's huge right now, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. I believe that was that Soslin Harlow who ran into him, or was it Jordan Ross? It was Jordan Ross. Ouch! Goodness me, I think there has to be a tow because there was more contact after that, and now Jordan Ross is waiting to get turned around.
Yeah, that's it. And Blake Neck just went straight back to the pits there. They will take no further part in that qualifying session. It just looks to me like Blake got
Jordan Ross.
very loose and right into the wall. What about Jordan Ross?
Still there waiting, but of course he's blind on the inside there, Cam, so he's going to have to wait forever to turn around. He'll do so now. Big slam on the wall. That's a broken car now, but he will try and bring that one home as safely as possible.
Yeah, that's not really a great thing to have happen, especially this late in the session for Jordan Ross, so he's going to have to bring that back into pit lane, and it's looking like it's a very, very broken car at the moment, with it not actually going in a straight line too well, but his teammates, Leon Tanner, probably would have been helping him there just to tell him when the track was clear, but that would have been a really, really scary position to be in, especially with having cars coming towards you at such a quick pace.
Oh, certainly, and I've just taken an eye on Richard Hampstead's time. He is 49th after all the issues on his first lap, a 2:08.666. Simon Mazzomo is 2,000ths quicker than Richard Hampstead. You've heard it here first, Reese.
Oh God, wow, what an achievement. Mazzomo will be absolutely wrapped with that. But Richard Hampstead still just a few feet wide of the apex at Griffin's Bend, so he's still trying to set that banker lap. I mean, I guess you could say that his previous lap was a banker lap because it got him a time on the board, but definitely not the time that he would have been too happy with. Just behind Richard Hampstead, Todd Parks in the 040, really experimenting with the capabilities of that car's rear end, and ended up getting a tiny bit of wall damage for his troubles as Hampstead continues ahead.
Ouch, and you can see for Richard Hampstead, he's got Nick Cummings just in there we go. Oh, big issues, and he's got to try and save it. Can he save it? No, he spears it into the wall. He'll be able to get that one going, but Hampstead really struggling inside the last 15 minutes now here, Cam. This is do or die for him. He can't afford to be out there with absolutely nothing to show.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got very limited time left, and if he doesn't get a good lap in, he's going to have to start dead last in this race. And while that's actually not a good thing, it's also not a bad thing, because if you're at the back, you're going to be able to sit behind everybody and just potter along and let the carnage in front of you unfold as that car is looking very out of shape down Conrod.
I've also seen Griffin Gardner in the 209 Zuva racing car have a huge moment, and that's put them into a lot of issues as well, as they are currently in 8th position, only 3/10 clear as things stand in qualifying. So these final 15 minutes, the mistakes are showing now, Reese. Everyone is starting to run into troubles, and because they are running into those troubles, it means that they're losing time, and actually less drivers are able to get the lap times that they maybe would want to see in these stages of the event.
Yeah, that's the thing, as we're looking at the 207 finishing a lap.
027.
027, my mistake. It's at this stage of the session, I think, that everyone has set their first initial lap times, and they're starting to take more risks, so starting to get a bit more lax with their driving. So you're seeing more of those incidents. Cooper Webster across the line, 206.416, still no improvement for the 027. So that will be a bit concerning for them. No ticket into the shootout thus far, but the rest of the teams really starting to show, I think, a bit of fatigue in the later stages of this qualifying session. Number 22, though, starting a lap.
Yes, and I also want to keep an eye on that 61 ASM Rat Court car, because Thomas Hinds, from being nowhere inside the top 20s for the majority of this qualifying so far, and now on the door at 17th position. So we focus once more to the Down Under Graphics TTL Esports car, as Hinds is about to go and set a flying lap. Joe Burkett, though, not going to get any help from David J. Lord, and the Lord will give him his blessing, it seems, at this stage, Reese, to go and get a good lap time in.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The car up ahead of them is Carl James and the Redback Racing Team 911 car. Got to remember, Redback and TTL Esports have started up a bit of a partnership in the last few months or so. So these teams will definitely want to try and help each other up the standings. Carl currently in 35th, Joe Burkett in 20th, and looking very fast and very accurate on this particular lap, but we'll see how well he does come the end, because there's so many opportunities for a lap to go awry around here, especially in this section of the circuit. That's a car stop.
Ian Ford
That's
stopped.
Ian Ford, yeah.
Uh-oh, Ian Ford having
Bad position, very bad.
Uh-oh, indeed, and Ian Ford and that number 15, you've got to worry for them, gets them going. Replay on screen. I completely missed that from the view that I had in the eye in the sky, but he's got himself going again, Cam, but even second in qualifying right now can run into issues.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you're trying to push to that limit to try and, while being safe, you're also trying to be as quick as possible to inside that top 15, especially with Ian Ford not too far behind. Jared Filson on the TTR number 1 is Burkett's coming just across the line. Is it going to be an improvement? No, it's not.
Ooh, close, but not close enough at this stage as the train of TTL continues to charge out, as we keep an eye as well on that 61 ASM Rackcourt car, rounding itself through the chase, and a little bit of a stabby way through that that last chicane. Just had to take maybe 3 bites to the wheel to try and get the car to work in the way that Hinz wants to. And what can Hinzy find in terms of a lap time? He does improve. 2:06.179 up to 14th. Pursuit and Taliangic are knocked out. Zuva and Chris Coxhead are on the bubble.
Oh, this is certainly getting juicy in these last 10 minutes of the session. Chris Coxhead in the 208 on screen right now. This is the car on the edge of the bubble. This is the car in danger. Rear end going away through Reed and Sulman and through McPhillamy as well. Goodness me, Chris Coxhead drifting his way across the top of the mountain, and I think it's safe to say this lap is not going to be an improvement. But sorry, go on, Sperry.
No, it's fine, you finish.
I was just going to say that's a very close gap between 15th and 16th. Only 0.03 of a second is what Taliancic needs to find.
And you could say that he is in pursuit of what he needs to be looking for, as we keep an eye on the 27, Michael Cracknell, currently for Evolution Racing Team in 23rd position right now, chasing down Ian Bird on track and Thomas Hinz on track as well, so trying to get some draft for that lap time. But Cam, at 1 hour, this qualifying session is not done. You have until the end of your lap once the hour expires. Once 1 hour goes, that's not the end of qualifying. You get the end of your lap to work on as well. Last past the line could mean everything.
Yeah, absolutely. It could mean, especially if you need to get that final lap in that you know you're going to go quicker on and you just haven't been able to nail it yet. So it's going to be really, really crucial for guys to try and time it so they get across the line at the right moment. I know there's probably going to be one person who's going to just make it in with probably 1 second left in the session, but it's going to be all about getting that final lap and to try and get yourself inside the top 15 with such little time left in the session.
Exactly, and everyone will be positioning to try and be the last car. Here comes Cracknell, though, currently 23rd, looking for a little bit more for the Evolution Racing Team car, and as they cross the line, they do themselves at 2:06.549. That's 1 position, though. They jump over Craig Moretta Racing Team Black, but only 1 position at this stage. It's good, but it's not amazing, as now the 027 is currently looking to finish a lap, we do believe. Well, just starting a lap, actually, as I correct myself. But this is what we're seeing. How do you break this small little pocket of 2:06.1s? You have to feel at this stage, you've got to go sub 2:06 to be safe here, Reese.
Yeah, that may be an option for these guys. I mean, it's only 0.2 or so separating 11th to 15th, so not too much in the bag there for a few of the guys. So that's why the vast majority of them are out there to try and secure their current lap times, maybe sneakily hinder a few of their rivals' lap times as well, because you never know. Even if you do manage to obey blue flags and get out of the way, that distraction, that brief moment of distraction, can still mean the world to a driver who is currently trying to finish a lap in this session.
Yeah, that's very, very true. Richard Hampstead in 28 is currently in 36th position, diving down onto the lane. I'm surprised. You can see he's definitely struggling. I think he's been paying so much attention to the VSR showdown here, Cam, that his performance here is going to be disappointing right now. Currently needs to find himself 1.1 seconds just to get inside the top 15.
Yeah, absolutely. I know he hasn't actually done many, if any, laps. He did admit that himself when he got home today, so he's going to be really struggling out there, but we'll see what happens. Richard's obviously a fairly competent driver, so he shouldn't have too many difficulties trying to set a fairly decent lap, even if it means that he doesn't start inside the top 15, but just outside of it.
Yeah, exactly. So if he's just outside the top 15, you take that as a bonus, but 15th position right now means so much more than just 15th here, Reese. It's 15th plus any more positions you can get in the shootout.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the first people out on track in the shootout, they'll have the track to themselves. They won't have that pressure, I suppose, that comes with setting a time later on in the shootout. As we see the 18 starting a flying lap right now, but it's those first couple of cars out in the shootout that really stand the best chance of improving, because they can just get out there and just set a lap, and their fate is basically sealed. So not much pressure.
No, not at all. But the 4-minute warning comes into full effect in qualifying. Now it is under 2 flying laps left for drivers to sort out their issues as Michael Healy makes his way up through the cutting and now towards his fantastic sweeping right and left out on track, looking towards Solomon Park now, this fantastic left, then into the Frog Hollow where you have this big dip and back onto the power in towards McPhillamy Park and then heading towards Skyline. For the moment at least, Healy looking pretty comfortable here on this lap, has to be said. He's been pushing in all the right areas, but the question is it quicker?
Yeah, that's the one thing that you got to consider. I mean, looking at the way Healy is driving through the S's at the moment, he is looking extremely comfortable in that car, and it seems to be doing exactly what he wants it to. Almost kissing the wall on the inside of Forest Elbow. Fantastic exit.
I should say ASM Ratcorp have just moved to 15th.
Oh, there we go. Thomas Hens with that 206.179 on the bubble.
On the bubble indeed. Zuva now on the outside looking in, but we shall keep it right now with the 25 at the moment, because Riley Blythe is currently in 10th position at the moment, and he's got Josh Muggleton just behind. And that's another reason as well, because that's the second Evolution Racing team car in. Riley Blythe with a power lap to go to 10th and probably safe.
Yeah, certainly. He does look safe there with that 205.9 sub 206. And Healy, meanwhile, gaining 1 spot and setting a personal best just on the bubble of the top 20 right now.
Yes, but 2/10 off, and Cam, we're now looking at 2 minutes to go. If you're not out on track now, that's it. You can't set any more lap times.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're exiting pit lane now, it's game over. You're not going to get another lap in, but the 208 is currently on a lap at the moment, coming up towards Reed Park, hugging that outside wall, getting as close as he dares to that wall, really close as he comes down towards the grey in Fulhamy, getting right up on the curb, trying to use maximum amount of racetrack. A little bit wild over through McPhillamy there, but he's managed to get down towards Skyline, right out on the curb, getting right up against the left-hand side wall, right-hand side wall, onto the curb, down through the dipper. It's looking like a fairly... Yeah, there is a car off behind.
I think there was a bit of contact somewhere, so someone smacked the wall, but they should be, that should be day done for them actually if they've hit the wall, so not long to go, a minute now, and Coxhead has no draft, remember, is being used, you could say, by the KRF Arch template and hire and sales car of Guy Leach, the SSR Track Stars racing car of Wade Burke, so Coxhead right now gets no help in 16th position as he charges his way down the hill towards the chase, and on the brakes he goes, searching for something. He has one more lap after this. That's going to be very, very crucial with 40 seconds remaining, and he'll abandon this one and go for one more as he backs out of it to start one more lap. As we look at Wayne Burke and his charge over to the line, his 20th lap of the day. What can he set? Can he make himself safer than 13th? Answer is no, fractionally slower.
Yep, Guy Leach, meanwhile, set a best lap there, put that 116 car up to 26th position. So good stuff from those guys. But now we focus on the 208. Chris Cox hit his last gasp effort here to try and get that car into the top 15 shootout as the 018 we're currently focusing on as well.
I think Webster's missed it.
Yeah, he's missed it. Burkett's the last one on a flying lap who's made it.
Oh, well, Webster just missed it by literally fractions. Here's the 209 coming to the line currently in 8th position. 2077 certainly not quick enough by standards, as Mitchell Cracknell will not go any quicker. So Pursuit has absolutely nothing to offer right now. On a little bit of worry will be Jordan Ross, currently heading himself down the hill. Got Brenton Hobson on a lap. Kyle Stokes currently on a lap as well in 18th position. So watch Kyle Stokes for the moment, and Talyancic as well. Let's focus on Talyancic first in the 777. So Pursuit Sim Racing here. Here's the opportunity they need. They need a tenth of a second, really, is what they are looking for. They need to spoil the day of Synergy, who currently have the most cars in the top 15 shootout with the number set at 4, but Talyancic will not go any quicker. He will not do any more. Here comes Richard Hamstead in the 28. He will not do any more. Postlethwaite, Hobson and Stokes all on lap times, all making their way through. Big wiggle from Stokes as he tries to put the power down. They will all look to set lap times that get them a little bit closer. Eye on Stokes though, he has the ability to change things as he charges to the line. Mistake from Postlethwaite to finish 206.364. Stokes does not go any quicker. Disaster. Burke will not go any quicker. Now we look to Chris Coxhead.
He's already abandoned
208,
his lap,
and he has
Barry.
abandoned the lap, so he won't find anything. Now the question is, Joe Burkett, you're the last man on track. You've got to find 0.2 of a second. Can you do it for TTL Esports? Charging to Murray's corner, looking for something, a little smidgen of something to give a bit of hope to TTL here at Bathurst, and the answer is 206.191. It's not enough, but it's 16th position. Oh, he got so close. That does it. Qualifying's done, and this is how things stand here in qualifying number 1. Harrop Engineering, Trans-Tasman Racing then. They are the fastest in qualifying. They booked their place first to the shootout on a 205.306. Evolution Racing Team 15 come home second, with ASM Cash Centric in 3rd position. Hyperstimulator TTL Esports are 4th, with Trick Simsport Black in 5th. Hybrid Racing Simulations TTR, the 215 is in 6th, with Momo Australia Trans-Tasman in 7th. Zuva Racing is the 209 in 8th, with Marlon J. McMullen Racing in 9th. Evolution Racing Team 25 in 10th. Then you've got 4 Synergy Sim Racing cars, the DGD Custom Racing, then the 2 Trackstar cars, and the Watercraft Racing car as well. And Thomas Hinds for ASM Rat Corp held off the bubble in 15th position. I've gone a little bit too far. You know what, Reese? Have 15 for your troubles.
Of course. Down under graphics, TTL Esports, number 22 in its 16th there, with Zuva Racing 208 also just missing out on that. Watching Chris Coxhead on his last lap, he abandoned that one around the point of McPhillamy. Pursuit Sim Racing, Michael Talyancic, they'll start that car from 18th. 19th will go to the 018 Synergy Sim Racing car. The Evolution Racing Team 027, Cooper Webster, gets them into 20th. Meanwhile, Momo Australia TTR number 18, Lee Ellis and Michael Healy from 21st tomorrow. And this is going to be the big surprise. 22nd, the number 28 car, Richard Hamstead, not able to set a lap time that we would expect from that machine. The rest of the top 30 here, The number 27 starting from 23rd, CMR Team Black in 24th. The number 73, DPR Benmax Racing Car. That was Philip Worley in that machine. They are starting from 25th. 26th is going to be Guy Leach putting that car in 26, number 116. The number 47 starting from 27th. And the top 30 rounded out by the number 37 TTL Esports car, John Latham setting that car's fastest time. Sean Kelly bringing that 31 car home in 29th, and starting from the top 30 is the number 112, TTL Esports car, Cam, the rest of the field.
31st will go to the 222 Middle Finger Racing, Geodesic Racing, number 42 and 32nd. 33rd, Cross Continental Motorsports, number 100, with the SSR DGD Customs Racing 040 just behind in 34th. 35th, WRT LeBlanc 787 and 35th, with the number 911 WRT LeBlanc car just behind in 36th. 37th to the number 060 PRA Race Stars, with the SSF Penrite Racing 104 just behind, as we've
got a mock race going on. It means
mock race
carry on.
But in 39th, All-Star Motorsports 211, Lit Motorsports Red 23 and 40th. 41st, HBA Race on Oz number 07. WRT LeBlanc 149 and 42nd. 43rd, Velocity Sim Racing 333 019 Middle Finger Racing in 44th. 45th, the SSR Watercraft Racing 351. The number 26 Evolution Racing Team in 46th. 47th will go to the All-Star Motorsports Young Guns 124, with Beast Racing number 82 all the way down 48th. And rounding out the field will be the SSF Penrite Racing 035.
Yes, it will. As we have a little mock race going on in the background. Last chance to practice. That's going to be a good 5 laps that they'll be able to work, or 10 minutes, as it were. But here on the iRacing Esports Network, we're going to step aside because we have support racing action coming up in just a few moments' time.
Nestled in vast, picturesque country New South Wales, right next to the big town of Bathurst, to many motorsport fans, Mount Panorama Circuit needs no introduction. It is the Australian racetrack, the place where people plan pilgrimages, the Southern Hemisphere's answer to Spa, Suzuka and the Nürburgring, all in one insane piece of road. It is fast, it follows the terrain, and walls are close at all times. Only the best triumph here, both in real life and in sim racing. Mount Panorama is subject to more waxing lyrical and commentary cliches than any other track in Australia, but suffice to say that is not without very good reason. Like many of the tracks we visit for the V8 Supercar Online Premier Series, Bathurst's history of motorsport goes much further back than is immediately apparent. There has been motor racing activity in the area surrounding Bathurst since the start of the 20th century. The first circuit used in the region was the Peel Circuit in 1906, connecting the towns of Peel, Clear Creek and Kelso. The second was the Yetholm Circuit, a triangular loop around the localities of Kirk Connell, Meadow Flat and Sunny Corner. This track entered use in 1914 as the host of the first ever Australian Motorcycle Grand Prix. The third was the Mount Horrible or Sunny Corner Circuit in 1926, which combined parts of the former tracks and extended all the way up to Palmer's Oakey to create a massive 100-kilometre loop. And finally, during the 1930s, racing was held on the Vale Circuit, a track shooting through paddocks pretty much right next to the future site of Mount Panorama. Bathurst, as we know it, had its beginnings in the Vale Circuit period. The Mayor of Bathurst, Martin Griffin, wanted to create a permanent home for motor racing in the region, to construct the greatest circuit in the world. Unfortunately, Griffin had the problem of the world being in the midst of the Great Depression. The Australian government was not willing to commit funds to something like a motor racing circuit, so Griffin hatched another plan. He and the Bathurst Council approached the government with plans for an employment relief scheme. a tourist drive going up and down the bald hills. The economic benefits seemed obvious, and this plan got greenlit. But as the new Mount Panorama Scenic Drive was constructed from existing tracks on the hill, it was noted that it would make a very good motor racing circuit. How very convenient, Mr. Griffin. Mount Panorama Circuit hosted its first race in 1938 for motorcycles. From then on, the track's fame only grew. After the Second World War, the circuit became the most popular motor racing venue in Australia. In 1963, it poached the Armstrong 500-mile race from Phillip Island, which come 1973 was extended to 1,000 kilometres. As the Bathurst 1000 was born, the legend continued to build, and many of the most famous moments in Australian motorsport history took place here. It was also at Bathurst that Australia's Ford versus Holden rivalry was truly established, as regulations and series evolved with the track. The 1987 Bathurst 1000 was selected as a round of that year's World Touring Car Championship, but changes had to be made to comply with the FIA's new rulings, which stated that they would not sanction races at circuits with straights longer than 2 kilometres. The Chase was constructed in response, but that remains the only layout change made to the circuit. Apart from this challenging diversion off Conrod Straight, Mount Panorama follows exactly the same route as it did when it opened, but with the former paddock fences and rock faces replaced by gravel traps and concrete walls almost the whole way around. Unfortunately for motorcycle enthusiasts, these same walls meant the end of bike racing on the mountain. The last motorcycle race meeting was held in 2000. The whole history of this venue up to the present is so rich and storied that we would need the 6 hours it takes to run a Bathurst 1000 just to cover everything. Suffice to say that Australian motorsport, world motorsport, owes a stupendous amount to the presence of this venue. This track, this race, is one of the greatest spectacles and tests of skill and endurance that the motorsport world has to offer, real or virtual. And now, you get to watch more than 100 of Australian sim racing's best tackle it.
The following is a presentation of the iRacing Esports Network.
Welcome back then to Mount Panorama and to a GTE challenge coming up at the moment as we get ourselves gridded up for action here. Luis Paulo Galon on pole position with Alexander Byrne in second, Sam Sutton, the military man, in third with Daniel Williams fourth, Cody Bircher fifth, and Hayden Dodman in sixth position. 22 laps worth of racing then, one pit stop I believe is going to be required from this one, but a stacked field, which has 52 cars setting themselves a qualifying time. It's safe to say the GTEs are here, and the GTEs are in full force on the iRacing Esports Network. Hashtag do you mind, Jake Sperry? Got Reese Gardner. We've also got ourselves Cameron Dance in for the conversation as well. And this is why the community gets brought together to do races like these, because not everyone's going to do the 1000, not everyone's going to get into the 1000. Here's another opportunity to drive the greatest Australian circuit that has managed to ever exist. Crucial as well, Ford up on pole position with Luis Paulo Galon. We've got the likes of the Ferraris and the Porsches all looking to charge their way through and get themselves some good times. But 2 minutes soon about to expire, the lights will come on because of that very tight street-style nature that you see, Cam.
Yeah, absolutely. When the field's got effectively nowhere to go, it can result in sometimes a little bit of carnage and a bit of a pile-up, unfortunately, and calling a safety car is probably definitely the right thing to do. So it does make it interesting in this race, because with the fact that there is a pit stop, you could possibly fill up a little bit under the safety car just to get yourself home. But yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting.
It is going to be interesting. So Alexander Bird can tick himself 3 laps off here, Reese.
Yes, indeed, he certainly can, and that's the kind of thing that would probably be welcome, just an opportunity to get over the freneticness of the first lap and just reset things, so to speak. I will say, one thing I did notice on that first lap as they were coming across the top, Luis Paulo Galon was really pressuring Bird, and that right there is one of the differences between these GTE cars. There's 3 of them here, the Ferrari 488, the Ford GT, and the Porsche 911 RSR. The Ford has the most downforce. It is the best through those fast corners across the top, and you could see oh no, oh, it looks to me like drivers are still wrecking coming out onto the chase. That's obviously not what we want to see.
No, not at all, and that's going to be really, really hurting everyone as they desperately try and get themselves up as quickly as they can. A lot of damage there, so, you know, incidents happening because drivers, well, let's be honest here, they may not have been driven by them because there are so many cars in this field looking to try and race. There's 55 that took the start here today, Cam.
Yeah, that's a lot of cars for a track like this, especially with the number of different driving styles and talents that you've got in this field. It's very, very busy and very mixed field, so it can get a little bit wild at some point.
It certainly can at some point, and at some point was lap number 1. Then movers and shakers as things stands. Clint Shane Smith has dropped 2 positions, up 1 for Darrell Carter. Trent Thomas also has gained a position gained for the Bryborg himself, Brian Borg. So a couple of +1s, a few little drops here and there, but not really many changes. Seeing drivers like Gene Fiddis, for example, the Genie himself in 17th position, hasn't really made any progress. Has got to get past Paul Mansell, and Mansell will be trying to drive through the field like Nigel Mansell would, Reese.
Yeah, certainly. And Paul made his way up already to 16th place, and you got to remember, we only had 2/3 of a lap worth of racing there at the start, so it really shows that the drivers were taking those chances that they needed to on the first lap. But I think definitely you would argue that had they been afforded a couple of more opportunities, if that caution hadn't been called out, we would see a few more positions won and lost so far.
We certainly would have done, but of course, a caution thrown half a lap into the event. This also means at this stage, we look at the end of the lap 2, start of lap 3. This is the pit stop window technically here, Cam. This is where, okay, do I dare dive down onto the lane? Do I dare sacrifice track position to go get myself the fuel? Maybe even fresh rubber?
Yeah, it's a really hard call to make, especially if you're someone at the front like Alexander Bird or Luis Paul Gallen or Sam Sutton or one of those guys inside the top 10, because you don't want to put yourself way back in the field where you know there's possibly going to end up being carnage or you're going to end up being in an incident in some way. So it's a really tough call in these sort of races. If you're at the back or in the mid-pack, it's probably not a bad idea to get yourself further back and just have a little bit of clean air. But yeah, it's really interesting. As Paulo Gallon's actually come down the road.
You better be careful not to overtake the safety car.
Oh,
That's
very careful. I think that he's on the lane and making sure that he makes his stop. So keep an eye out on that one then, as we have a couple more takers then onto the lane. One is Clint Smith. The other is Blake Purdy, who is diving down onto pit road. So a lot of takers then in the early stages looking to try and make sure that they get on the lane as quickly as possible, as now you see Gallon in his box.
Yes, indeed, and bless you, Sperry. Luis Paulo Gallon taking tyres in that box right now. So, obviously getting his stops done and hoping that he will be able to fight his way back through the field under green flag conditions, or maybe banking on another caution as well. Got to remember, safety cars breed safety cars, and that fact rings true more at Bathurst than at almost any other circuit in the world, bar some of the craziest street circuits that we see. So Gallon comes out just ahead of David Mutton. That's down in 45th position, and we've just been informed that the compulsory pit stop must be taken under green flag conditions. So Gallon has... Oh, that's a bit of an issue there, down Mountain Straight, just checking up. But Gallon has really just not done his race any service there by taking that stop.
Well, this is where, if you haven't read the rules, you get in trouble, because Gallon effectively has gone, okay, I've come down in now. It means that, okay, he's lost all that track position, and he's got to go do the splash and dash effectively on the final lap cap.
Yeah, well, so that's a really, really unfortunate circumstance that he's had. And again, if you don't read the rules, you're going to get stung like that. So he's done himself no favours in both not reading the rules and also making a pit stop under caution.
Yeah, very, very true. So now it's Bird, Sutton, Williams, your top three. Followed then by Bircher, Borg, Dodman, Thomas, Carter, and now Nathan Anderson rounds out the top 10. So those who decided to make that pit under caution, they are in a bit of trouble. The likes of Clint Smith as well can be put underneath that name. But looking at our iRacing roof first safety car, lights are off of it, Reese. We are going green as we get ourselves down towards Forest Elbow.
Yes, indeed. And once the caution ends, once the safety car pulls in, it will be up to Alexander Bird to lead the field away. Got to remember, considering the pit lane at Bathurst, the way it cuts away much of the inside of the last turn, the drivers will have to be careful not to pass the safety car until it is in the lane, which can take some time, considering the speed that the safety car does. iRacing will automatically give them a penalty if they pass the safety car, so they do need to be extremely careful coming up to the green flag here. So an ocean of GTE cars makes its way up over the crest on Conrod Straight.
Yep.
And that's going to be that.
And it's not just the fact that you're reiterating that, because that is, of course, a Fusion Amazon Web Services car leading the field. I know you have a little bit of team affiliation, but it is very, very important, and all drivers must be very, very careful about that fact. The military man, Sam Sutton, the man who never really joins a team, Daniel Williams, the Lone Ranger, we can say he is at the moment. And of course there's a Bryborg waiting the back for Cross Continental Motorsports. Pace car then will dive down onto the lane. Lap 4 about to start, and a rolling start for the first time then in this event. Long hold, long wait, waiting for that pace car to go, and go it will do. Alexander Bird dives off and away, and let's get the green flag going. We are underway once more here at Mount Panorama Circuit. Here's Cody Bircher at turn number 1. No remorse, he takes a position immediately there, Cam.
really, really aggressive and really good move there from Birchie to get up the inside and to make the move stick on Williams. And now Williams is going to actually have Brian Borg, who's possibly going to look to go round the outside at Griffin's Bend. Not the easiest move to do, but Borg's going to back out of it.
No, Brian Borg not close enough. The Bryborg must have another stab at it. Another day. It's clean throughout the majority of your field, which is very, very nice to see at this stage. Little battle, though, further down in the pack. Anderson, Jones, Knight. And you got Rooney there running wide as Mansell wants to charge. The purple or the multicolored car of Gene Fiddis trying to get in. Daniel Misdale on that pack as well. But look at Jacob Knight right now. He's searching for a way past Ryan Jones. He can't find it up the mountain.
No, he certainly can't. And, you know, it's those few turns that you really need to be careful following another car, because especially with the difference in cornering speeds as drivers get used to their first racing laps around here, it's incredibly difficult to try and just back off slightly. Make sure that you can make that move where it counts. But I tell you what, Ryan Jones doing a good job defending here, but Jacob Knight, I think it's only a matter of time before he passes. Look at the run that he's got down Conrod. That's incredible.
Fantastic run and pulls over to the right-hand side up the hill, gets draft as well from Nathan Anderson, the faintest glimmer of it, and will be straight through here on Ryan Jones. And Ryan is trying everything to cut back. He's still going to look, but later on the brakes there ever so slightly was Jacob Knight, and that has him safe. Mistake from Jones allows Rooney now in with an opportunity, and right now you'd have to be as lethal as a striker as Wayne Rooney would have to be if you want to find a way through at the moment. But nope, no chance just yet. Set it up for a little bit later. Gap at the front already, though. 1.2 seconds as Sam Sutton has to play the defensive game with Cody Bircher and Daniel Williams.
Yeah, that's it. And, you know, up at this part of the field, Alexander Bird obviously breaking away from that pack and keeping an eye on Cody Bircher, because we know that he's got quite a bit of pace coming off this that first caution period, really pressuring the back of Sutton actually coming up to the cutting. So this battle here for second, third and fourth, definitely where it's at. Brian Borg may have a look in here as well.
He certainly could, as this four-car train looks to charge, and Sam Sutton hasn't really had too much time to be racing. Cam, you've been looking at the TTL drivers' progress. Of course, you, of course, affiliated with the team, so we could definitely say it's a Reese versus Cam battle in the commentary booth. But you look at Sam Sutton, it has been a strong defence. We've seen him get back into racing. Just how will he be dealing with this sort of pressure when you've got three very, very hungry drivers behind?
I'm sure he'll be taking it fine, actually. I know he's had experience in the GTE cars. Myself and Brady Myers both did the Le Mans 24 hours with him. Unfortunately, didn't quite make the top split. We were in second split and had our work cut out for us, that's for sure. But yeah, he'll be doing really, really well, and it's looking like he's holding off from Cody Bircher at the moment, doing really well just behind them, Daniel Williams as well. So you can't really discount Williams, as it's looking like Birch is going to go for a move up the inside, but going to think about it.
No, he wasn't close enough to make it, didn't have the confidence to sling one on the brakes, as now Ryan Jones pulls behind Daniel Rooney as well and runs off the track. That will allow Paul Mansell the chance to get through Misdale Goodman, and something I believe has happened to Gene Fiddis as we got the cars into the pits as things stands, and that is Daniel Misdale, so he will be down on the lane and looking to make his stop. So early stop, maybe a penalty as well, as we got moves looking, as that was, I believe, Mansell through on Jones, as Scott Goodman tried to get himself through. So a good man trying to make a good move here, Reese.
Yeah, certainly. You know, the Ferrari behind two Porsches coming up Mountain Straight. He's got that double draft, and Paul Mansell keeping to that defensive line coming into Griffin's. Ryan Jones, just enough room left on the outside, but have a look at Mansell. He hasn't gotten the optimum exit there, so they're going to go side by side up into the cutting. Not optimal. Jones going to try and back out of this.
And that's Bird, race leader. Race leader turns out the cutting all on his lonesome. And my goodness me, Alexander Bird, there's more contact. It's taken Daniel Williams out of play as well, who gets himself started and turned around. I was wondering if a caution would go. Replay up on screen, but oh my goodness. And Brian Borg as well. So Daniel Williams basically tried to thread the needle, and the needle wasn't large enough.
No, certainly not. That's very unfortunate for Alexander Bird and for Daniel Williams too.
Rudy's off as well.
In the wall.
What?
And that's a skyline all on his own. So it's all kicking off here in this challenge here, this GT challenge. He was hard into the wall and he had no way to save that one. So he is out of the event. Right, calm yourself. Sam Sutton leads this race, but not by much, because battle for the race lead. Cody Bircher now sees himself starting 5th. Okay, we got a race on our hands here, Cam.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all on for the race win at the moment between Sutton and Bircher. These two are going to be going at it. Porsche versus Ferrari, a great Le Mans battle, actually, that you typically see, but this is going to be all on at the moment between these two, that's for sure.
Wow, calm yourself down. Sutton and Bircher hold a lead, and they are 3 seconds clear of Brian Borg in 3rd position. So right now, this is completely all changed. So Sutton leads, Bircher 2nd, Borg in 3rd, Dodman in 4th. It's now Trent Thomas in 5th, Darrell Carter in 6th position, Addison 7th, Knight in 8th, Mansell is 9th, and Jones is now fighting for 10th. Ashley Leo, who started 21st, looking to go up. Philip Stoneman's up 15 positions on the back of this train in his Porsche race.
Yeah, Philip Stoneman doing incredibly well there, up in 12th position currently, and actually looking a sight faster than the 2 cars in front of him. Ryan Jones 2:05.4, Ashley Leah 2:04.4, Philip Stoneman 2:03.9. So, wow, great pace from Stoneman there.
Very, very great pace indeed, as we are on board with Philip Stoneman and the number 49 car up the mountain. He treks, but he is still about 0.6 of a second here, Cam, off of optimal draft. So he's looking to try and get as close as he can. He needs a very good mountain section, and it's just stringing out a little bit in this little battle. Oh, Ryan Jones, sorry.
Sorry to interrupt, guys.
How close do you want to get Ryan Jones? He was wide there, Reese.
Oh, he certainly was. My apologies once again, but just making a slight little mistake. A little bit of damage to the rear wing now for Ryan Jones in that race on Oz Porsche, but he's still managing to hold that position, amazingly enough.
Yep, he's holding that position and doing a good enough job at holding said position, so he's doing well. Battle, though, with Trent Thomas as he tries to get past Hayden Dodman in the number 11. This is the battle for 4th position on the road, and there's that swarm of Amazon Web Service cars trying to get through. Small mistake there from Trent Thomas, was very, very narrow through that corner there, Cam, as now he will struggle to get the run. Needs a very good hell corner, and right now, I'd have to say that that was average at best.
Yeah, absolutely. Not the greatest run, and it looks like his teammate just behind Darrell Carter didn't do too bad of a job of getting a good exit as well. So Thomas coming under from possibly an attack from his teammate, although being teammates, they'll probably be trying to work together, as now Thomas getting right up behind that Porsche just in front of him, but again, not quite getting the exit that he needs to.
Not at all. Up into the cutting, then they come along, and again, nothing really happening as they pass the private tennis court there on the outside of the circuit, and back onto the charge that they keep on looking for, as Cody Bircher now has started to drop back a little bit at the front of the field. The gap over 0.7 of a second as things stand. So still some very, very tight battles out on track, including Matthew Norris versus Pat Gallo, this one for 14th position, Reese.
Yeah, and you know, obviously showing that the battles are everywhere in this field. Matthew Norris running that car with sponsorship from the Flat Chat podcast, which has recently been added to the V8's online roster. Welcome, guys. And they'll be having chats with the drivers and teams and broadcasters of SCOPS. And
well, it's very telling how much good work they do. Here's Trent Thomas, though, getting out of the draft very early, looking to get in the mirrors here of Hayden Dodman, trying to make something happen, but again, not close enough, trying to scare on the brakes Dodman, but Dodman who we saw at Oran Park in V8SCOPS. He is very, very good, Cam, at holding off drivers and actually making positions as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Hayden Donovan's a great driver. He's really, really good in the way that he drives. We've seen in past events that he really does have good pace, and he does a really good job of just being able to hold on to a position and being able to work around thinking about moves and all that sort of stuff. So it's going to be really interesting to see what Thomas has got here for Dominant, whether he's going to be able to actually get by.
Great battle on at the moment. We got ourselves Scott Goodman right now, who's broken away from Spithill. You've got Colin Schwenke and Robert Northway going. Here's Spithill under pressure. We'll lose one here down the mountain. We'll lose two down the mountain. Now will Northway go for the slingshot, get 2 for 1. He's looking for it. Brave on the brakes down to the inside. Has he overshot it? No, he hasn't. Robert Northway. Well, he's going Route 1, and that Route 1 is a fantastic move. Now look at Spithill come back into the pits.
Yes, indeed. Robert Northway, we've seen him recently in the International Division of the Majors Series, come off as one of the better drivers in that category. And seeing him race this Porsche at Bathurst, it certainly seems that he's got it worked out. And Colin Schwenke obviously having a few issues there, a little bit of damage actually on his front right quarter, but he's still in the draft of Northway. He's still going to try and come back at him here.
Yeah, he's still going to have that opportunity as that battle continues between Dodman and Trent Thomas as they make their way through. Pit stop window then officially opens here, Cam, at the end of lap 9. You feel that drivers will now start thinking, okay, when do I dive down onto lane? Look at the run that Trent Thomas is having, though. Is he good enough on the brakes? Hayden Dodman is a match every single time. He has got that chase on point when it comes to his braking zone.
Yeah, absolutely. Dodman's been really, really good holding off Trent Thomas in his last few laps. But like you said, pit window is open, so we'll start to see numerous drivers come in and start to either undercut or overcut different drivers. Bearing in mind, they'll need a little bit of fuel. It won't be too much, so you may not see guys take tyres. You may see some take 2 or 1 tyre. It's going to be very interesting to see how the strategy in the pits plays out there.
It is very, very telling indeed. Gap at the front of the field, though, is hovering around 1 second here, Reese. Sounds like it's away Dodman. Oh, my word. And off into the wall goes Trent Thomas. And Reese, you were absolutely on that one. They were squeezing each other. Contact between the two. Thomas with nowhere to go. And Thomas in the wall. Replay on screen.
Yes, indeed, and it looks to me like, Dodman was trying his best to defend there, but probably pushed it a little far, in my opinion. But then, obviously, I would appreciate you guys' input on that one. But I guess that's what happens when you've got two very passionate drivers, two very racy drivers trying to fight it out over one position coming into Griffin's Bend.
Well, Cam, you have to look at that one as well. It's 2 into 1 doesn't go. Yes, he can force the outside, and Dominic is around and in the wall. And oh my goodness, it's all kicking off once more. It checks up the field as they now head through the dipper. And now it's too wide, which sees Jacob Knight send one down to the inside of the Forest Elbow and take the position. I think... Oh my goodness me, it's all kicking off now as Trent Thomas now comes under pressure from Jacob Knight, and Knight suddenly charging like the cavalry is behind him.
Yeah, that's it, side by side with Trent Thomas now down the straight. Thomas and Dodman back together here, and Thomas is going to try and defend here, go for the move. Oh yeah, that's traffic. Yeah, down a 32nd position there, but this is a proper 3-car, possibly 4-car battle now, and they're actually going to go for the pits is Thomas and Knight, so both of those guys taking their stop now, just taking that chance, so Dodman staying out.
And Northway and Schwenke still on their battle, and they will be gaining positions. Get an eye, though, on David Mutton right now, though. Started in 50th up to 20th. Jack Lemon, 55th to 16th, as things stands after 10 laps worth of racing. But Robert Northway here, just holding station right now. A minute off the leaders at the moment, but still doing a very good job at just holding off Colin Schwenke here, Cam.
Yeah, he's doing really, really good. Like Reece said, he's been one of the main drivers to keep an eye on in the international region of the Majors Series. He's done really, really good in other esports events as well. I know he competed not too long ago in the Project Cars championship that they held in NZ here not too long ago and did really, really well out of that. So he's not too bad of a driver, and at the moment he's definitely showing himself as being one of those drivers to keep an eye on as and when he does.
Yeah, and he's doing that very, very well. So it seems that just like that at the moment, that he's just thinking about, okay, can I climb the extra position? But Mark Samuel, whoa! Oh my goodness, Mark Samuel with a massive incident with Jack Lemon. That at the cutting, and that one is absolutely monstrous there, Reece.
Yeah, that is absolutely huge, and the great irony of that is I am not able to view it as I was focused on other cars at the time, so obviously not optimal for either of those guys.
And that was a shame for Jack Lemon. He was 55th to 16th, and all of a sudden he goes from hero there, Cam, to zero, just like that at the mountain.
Yeah, really, really big incident there. It just looked like Samuel lost it under brakes, which is very, very easy to do in these GTE cars when you're cornering. So he's tried to also turn the car around, and then Lemons had nowhere to go and just plowed into it. But we see Hayden Dodman in the pit.
Yes, we do. So Hayden Dodman coming in to make his one and only stop then on the day. And this stop's going to be telling because he's got damage that he needs to try and sort out as quickly as possible. No fast repairs here, so any damage that he has will have to be manually repaired, and he'll have to manually get himself off of the jacks and going again here, Reece. So Hayden Dodman maybe in a little bit of trouble here when it comes to this stop.
Yeah, that's entirely possible. You know, if he elects to repair all of that damage, then that's going to really put a bit of a damper on what was a good race for him.
He's taking 4 tyres.
Yeah, actually, he's off the jacks now, and there he goes.
There goes Trent Thomas. There goes there goes Jacob Knight. So same pit stop time. Everybody going through and doing a very good job of their stops. But it's a 29-second stop, and Hayden Dodman is behind Jacob Knight, and Knight will desperately try to stay with Trent Thomas right now. Thomas showing he has pace out on his own, out on circuit here. Look at Daryl Carter, though. He's got David Mutton that he was trying to get past, and there he just manages to get past the lap traffic there, Cam.
Yeah, absolutely. He just managed to get on by, and that's one of the things about the circuit. It's very, very narrow. It's got that street circuit factor like we've talked about, and it's very difficult to make a pass, and if you get caught behind lap traffic, it's massively impacting, as I've just seen Trent Thomas almost have the exact
Well, let's look at this then. Mansell currently in his own battle. This is with Daniel Misdale. So Mansell's just come out of pit road. We're just getting word of that as we had a little bit of dead air time, as we call. But Reece, Paul Mansell here, currently looking to try and get past Misdale. He knows he's the quicker driver because he's made a stop and he's ahead. He's still got to keep on pushing, though.
Yeah, he certainly does. And, you know, Paul Mansell, obviously a driver of great skill, as Sutton goes into the box. And, oh, yeah, Sutton misses in his box, and Paul Mansell, I just noticed, made contact with both Paul at Forrest's elbow.
I think that's either a drive-through or Sam Sutton's just completely missed his box, because I've seen no contact at all today from Sam Sutton at all. And let's just put it like that there, Cam. I think he just missed his box.
I think he has, actually, because I don't see a reason for him to have gotten a penalty, and it does also look like that he may have a little bit of damage to the car, so that's really strange that that's happened, and really unfortunate. I can understand why, because there's so many cars on pit lane, but yeah, that's cost him a huge amount of time.
That's probably just costing the race and giving Cody Bircher the race lead, and that's so massive for Cody Bircher. He's just been sitting there. He hasn't done anything massively aggressive here today, Reece. He's just been waiting for the mistakes, and the mistakes have come from everybody in this event. Galon, Sutton, talking about Bird, Williams. They've all made mistakes from the top of the field.
Yeah, they certainly have. And I mean, there is one aggressive thing that Cody Bircher has done all race, and that was the pass into turn 1 off the restart. But yeah, you're right. Apart from that, just absolutely staying behind, staying nice and quiet, and picking up those positions where it matters. And now he has got a very comfortable lead in this race. As we look at now into the chase, Sutton making a pass here on Nathan Anderson, and Sutton, well, having been his teammate in the past, I know how fired up he can get when things aren't going his way.
And they can see in again.
Yeah.
Again comes Sam Sutton. Race leader Cody Bircher then comes down onto the lane as well. This will now hand the race lead to Brian Borg here for Cross Continental Motorsports. But that is a huge mistake from Sam Sutton. I think he'll definitely know where his box is this time. He'll peel over to the left-hand side. Cardinal sin there from Sam Sutton's perspective as he looks to go in. He'll see Bircher behind him go, "Oh, you're in again, are you? Oh, well, that's fantastic. My victory is pretty much on lock unless something happens where Brian Borg has the stop of a lifetime, Cam."
Yeah, absolutely. As Misdale is side by side at the moment, heading into the chase.
Oh, and that was Misdale not being able to hold off Mansell. Mansell doing a great job as Alex Court just in front will dive onto lane. Misdale trying to come back at Murray's. You don't often make the move there. That's normally the do or die pass, shall we say there, Reese. But Misdale showing there, Paul Mansell, that he has a lot of tricks up his sleeve. He can go and make the moves if you give him half a gap.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And Ryan Jones and Scott Goodman just going side by side through turn one. So Ryan Jones continuing his good run in this one. But yes, Misdale and Mansell, they... wow, that's certainly not over. Have a look at Misdale, having a look at Paul Mansell once again, as Mansell just struggling a little bit there on the exit, just going over that crown in the road. That's something that we haven't talked about yet tonight, is that crown on the exit of the cutting. You need to stick to the inside through that corner. Daryl Carter stopped on the track now. Oh, big damage.
Wow, Forrest elbow runs into issues. So Daryl Carter now, another vehicle that gets it horribly wrong. Looking at it, he lost it before he even made it to Forrest elbow. Round he goes and into issues. Carter, oh dear me, it keeps on taking victims here in this race, it seems here. I hope this isn't any foreshadowing to what will happen tomorrow for the 1000 here, Cam.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was, again, just losing it over the rears being light over that rise coming down towards the elbow. It's very easy to do because of how light the rear gets, but it's, yeah, one of the toughest things to do around the circuit.
Goodman's Jones, and now Sam Sutton is on the rear of this one as Brian Borg, I believe, has dived down onto pit road. No, he hasn't. He stayed out. Ashley Lear came in then, as well as Daryl Carter. But here comes the move. And down the inside goes Goodman, but he's got the outside for the next corner. Great defensive driving there from Jones. But now Sutton picks the run-up off of the exit and runs wide off the exit, trying to be too greedy and can't do anything. Here comes Goodman. Down to the inside looking. No, he'll stay patient and wait for it. Everyone's starting to get a little bit antsy here on lap 15 here. Out to 22 here, Reese.
Yeah, and you saw Jones taking a bit too much curb there, and Murray's going off on two wheels, ruined his run into the start-finish straight. Got to be careful of quite a few of the curbs here, but he's got to run once again on Goodman, and that's almost contact between these guys. Goodman going defensive here, and these guys are all sharing the exact same bit of racetrack right now. This could be a twofer loss of position for Scott Goodman if he's not careful. Well, definitely... it looks like, there's one, and Goodman, unfortunately, there is two. That is what the outside of Griffin's Bend does to you. You have to say...
He was brave on the brakes. He ran into the back of the driver. I think he panicked a bit, trying to get out of making contact, and into the wall at the cutting goes Scott Goodman. This opens up the door for Northway and Daryl Carter now to try and make some positions, and for Robert Northway, it's another gift. I'm so happy that you keep on giving it. We've seen Anderson dive down onto pit road. He's now in a scrap with Hayden Dodman, and this one is going to be for 8th position right now here, Cam.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see whether Dodman's going to jump that position, though, because we did see that Dodman had a little bit of a longer stop and possibly did actually take tyres. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out.
It certainly will. Brian Borg yet to dive down onto the lane. I believe Philip Stoneman has also yet to pit at this stage. But for the moment at least, your race leader overall will be Cody Bircher. The gap backwards that he is looking for compared to Trent Thomas stands at 8 seconds at the moment. That's comfy. Simon Jones, though, having a little bit of too wide off the exit here, as now he loses out to Sam Sutton, who finally gets the move done. He's been waiting the entire lap for it, Reese, and finally the military man gets himself a bit of Gatling gun fire.
Yes, indeed. And just behind Daryl Carter battling there. And those guys are going to go side by side to turn one. Carter holding off on Northway. Oh, the exit. Oh, good on Daryl Carter to hold that one, but Northway is going to be the one with the run, the one with the advantage there. Unfortunately, having lost a bit of a gap to the guys in front, so he's going to have to work on that a little bit. But currently, Sutton gapping Jones.
Yep, certainly gapping Jones, and that's what we have been seeing, how the gaps just continuously get better and better and better the longer that this race goes on. Oh my, Sutton! Oh my word! Sutton with a big moment through the cutting, and that's gonna cost him. He got sideways halfway through the corner, tags the inside as well, and well, he's lucky that it's a slow speed incident there, Reese, but that could have been so much more.
Yeah, certainly could have, and he lost all momentum coming up the hill as a result of that, so he's had to let by all of those guys. It looks like he's actually backing off quite a bit in these next few corners. Not sure what's going on there, but that was a really costly mistake from Sutton.
Brian Borg on pit road, looking to make his stop and get back out again. Where will he come out in comparison to Cody Bircher? It was 3 seconds that he was looking at when he came into the pits, or Bircher came down onto the lane. Borg gets off of his jacks and gets away. I think he may just be in a battle for second position now as he gets himself out and going. And in fact, he's got the gap over Trent Thomas. So there is Brian Borg in second. Any mistake for Cody Bircher and there's troubles, but Philip Stoneman has gone longer than anybody, 17 laps so far on this stint, Cam. That's impressive. Reese, I'll come to you. That's impressive.
Yes, certainly. It's great there from Philip Stoneman being able to last that long, but I would expect him to come in the next couple of laps. Sam Sutton has retired from the race, so that's going to be him out. Very unfortunate. But we've seen that kind of luck, getting a replay of what happened to Sutton there. But oh, goodness me, it's been a race of attrition through and through so far, Sperry, and it's been drivers like Brian Borg, like Philip Stoneman, like Cody Bircher that have come out on top here.
Yeah, it has. As we try and escalate the replay, he was definitely good heading through Skyline. I couldn't see it after that, but he just drove into the pits and parked the car. He said, nope, that's done for me. I've had enough of my night. I've not enjoying this one, so he pulls over and basically does the Nicky Lauda and retires the car. But mistake for Anderson. Oh, go careful, but we keep an eye on Northway at the moment because Schwecke trying to get 14th position away. He's right there, hoping he's got something. Carter as well, trying to get past Scott Goodman, but of course the damage is so telling with Ryan Jones just in front. Look how close they are here, Reese.
Yeah, very close right now. And this is certainly the battle that's going to define the last few laps. Ryan Jones with a big gap to the drivers in front of him. Hayden Dodman around. So another mistake from a top running driver. That was at the chase. It just looks like he
on his own.
Just lost the rear completely on his own.
Just lost the rear on his own. It's as simple as that. Hayden Dodman with a mistake that drops him a position, and of course he's still having to try and negotiate the car with damage as well, so it's a little bit easier. And Philip Stoneman now just comes off of pit road, and he may just still be on for a top 10 here if things stay like this, because through's going to come Jones, so maybe, or Misdale, so it's just going to be outside of it. He's going to come out actually side by side with Ryan Jones, so Jones and Stoneman, this is the battle for 11th or 10th position at the moment here. Ryan Jones should get by on the inside, but Stoneman has done an amazing job to put himself in this position. He backs out of it, but crucially, he's in a fight for 10th now here, Reese.
He definitely is, and this is a proper four-car battle now for 10th place. Jones, Stoneman, Goodman and Carter. So all four of these guys wanting a chance at that top 10, and Stoneman will have some fresh tyres on that machine, so he'll have a little bit more grip at his disposal, a little more pace once those tyres get up to pressure. So Ryan Jones, it's up to him now to try and gap Stoneman, because if he can't, then he'll definitely be in danger. But he's doing a good job so far this lap. Have a look at the pace that he's drawn out already.
And you can see the two Amazon cars closing in, Goodman and Carter, both there, both charging, both going. Okay, this is what we want to focus on next, making positions as quickly as they can. And Cam, team dynamic now comes into play, because although it is, okay, we're fighting for our own races, work with each other, try and push yourself forward, and that's what Carter and Goodman were both trying to do. In fact, no, two teammates going to go at it, because you see Stoneman have a stunning run down the mountain, not so much for Goodman. Here comes Carter trying to make it too wide, but the damage is going to be hurting him in a straight line. He can't make the move.
Oh, well, he is going to make the move. Yeah.
Given there, Cam, it was certainly given.
It definitely was. There's, like you said, they'll be wanting to work together so they don't impede each other too much, but you want to try and get that position for your own benefit.
And it is on for third position as well, because Jacob Knight is finding Trent Thomas. There's a bit of traffic that's not going to be helping. That's David Mutton. And it seems that you've got to be one tough lamb to get past Mutton, and he has done so at that stage. Jacob Knight, though, well, it seems that the cavalry stopped the charge, but they're still within a second, so there's maybe a bit of a spark right now in the crusade, shall we say here, Reese?
Yes, indeed, and obviously losing a bit of time there was Knight, but he has got some good pace there. He did a 2:01.2 on the last lap versus a 2:02.191 from Thomas, so those guys are pretty evenly matched, and Jacob Knight definitely hungry as Goodman now is stopped. So another driver making a mistake there, coming up to the cutting this time round. So that's very unfortunate. It looked like just losing the rear.
Yeah, was certainly behind that driver Carter in front of him, so mistake there from Goodman, and that has cost him a lot. 2 positions to be precise on that battle, as we got Jones and Stoneman still going on. I want to keep an eye on the battle for the lead as well, with 3 laps to go across the line. So Borg certainly catching at the moment. It was down 0.6 of a second on the last lap, and it looks like it's not 2.4 seconds anymore as they come to cross the line. The gap actually does extend, or actually drop to 2.0 now as we look at things. So Bircher, he's got to be worried here. It's not enough at the moment. It's got to be 0.6 a lap now from Brian Borg. But if anybody can chase down the Brian Borg, has certainly got the ability to do so, Reese.
Yes, indeed. Ryan Jones made a mistake out of the chase, so this is going to let Philip Stoneman through, possibly on the outside. Is Jones going to try and get him back? He's going to give it a go, but both of them getting slowed up now, and this is going to bring Daryl Carter back into it. So that, once again, that battle for 10th continuing to rage on. Philip Stoneman now finding himself at the front, but that battle for the lead, as you said, once again, that is definitely on too. So we've got a few different things to keep track of here.
We do, with 3 laps to go. Here comes back Ryan Jones on the run up to Griffin's Bend, looking down to the inside and backs out of it. Wasn't good enough there on the brakes, and Stoneman equal at every given point in time. Mansell under pressure as well. Ashley Lear, that battle is going on for 7th position out on track, with Misdale desperately trying to stay with this one. We also have, of course, the fantastic battles versus Stoneman. Oh my word there, Reese.
Yeah, big mistake, and have a look, Daryl Carter flashing his lights at Ryan Jones. So all 3 of these guys, as Scott Goodman makes another mistake, unfortunately, but all 3 of these top 10 hopefuls, they're really getting a bit ragged right now.
They are getting very, very ragged, and you can tell the pressure is mounting as they want as many positions as they can, but they don't know quite how to make it work. 2 laps to go, and Brian Borg is not catching enough here for this race victory. It was 2.1 seconds. Gap comes down to 1.9, only 2/10, so Borg's not doing enough. It is being matched right now by Cody Bircher, who is having a great drive, but focus on this. Stoneman versus Jones versus Carter. Carter struggling with the damage, as we have noted, because it was 270. It's only 267 for Daryl Carter as he hits the brakes. So Ryan Jones right now, he's looking at, can I make this move? As is Ashley Lear here for 7th position right now, Cap.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all going on for those final few spots inside the top 10, as you said. So it's going to be really interesting with the laps counting down and not much time left for these guys to try and make a move and get inside that top 10 even further.
Oh, and there's a blown engine, and that is Mike Ford that we are seeing. So that is going to be a hurt for Mike Ford, or Mike Ford. So that's going to be... Oh, he got hit, I do believe. So by Silvassi, we do believe. So Martin Silvassi getting involved in a bit of an incident, not ideal with 2 laps to go. But Reese, 2 to go. Lead is pretty much Cody Bircher, make no mistakes. 3rd position is currently, make no mistakes, Trent Thomas. 7th, backwards to 10th. It's all game, all fair play.
Yeah, 100%. It's all on for those final positions in the top 10. Paul Mansell versus Ashley Lear for 7th, and Daniel Misdale holding himself very well there in 9th place. Matthew Norris may come into play for this top 10 battle here. Of course, he is lap traffic, and these 3 guys battling for 10th place will come up to him coming onto Conrod Straight. I'm interested to see what Norris does actually.
Whoa! In the fence goes Ryan Jones, pushing too hard through the Big Dipper. Gives the position, though, to Daryl Carter for how much longer, because the damage is telling on Carter's car as the white flag comes out at Mount Panorama. There is through Ryan Jones, and he will be better on the brakes surely than what Daryl Carter will be able to do. So lifeline spared, but Stoneman is clear and gone. Ashley Lear, though, trying to take 7th away from Paul Mansell, and Mansell at the moment has proven that he is very good at making overtakes, as is Lear, who has been a little less pronounced but has made more positions. The battle between 7th and 8th. The gap at the front of the field is 1.8 seconds between Cody Bircher and Brian Borg as they charge up the mountain for the final time in this event. Trent Thomas has a bit of traffic, as does Jacob Knight have to deal with. So both of them in their own little battle, they will just keep a little eye on what is going on. Backwards though to Lear and Mansell as they make their way up through Griffin's Bend, heading towards the cutting. And for Mansell, he is just not close enough yet to break away. Lear wanting everything and knowing that he can have none of it at the moment. Still hoping for something, but Mansell is holding on the way that he knows how. But down the mountain for the final time comes Cody Bircher. Ryan Jones, though, has run himself into issues. He has stopped up through the cutting. He has had himself an issue that was all on his own, no contact at all, and he just speared it right into the wall. Not what he wanted to finish, but to Cody Bircher, we must go. And with just 3 corners remaining for him, he's kept a cool head whilst everyone else has decided to run like headless chickens. For Cody Bircher, he has survived the mountain. For Cody Bircher, he shall win at Mount Panorama in this GTE category event. And Cody Bircher has just proven why this mountain is so sweet to get a win at. Brian Borg gets 2nd. Trent Thomas will come to the line in 3rd place. Lear has dropped back in his battle, but look at this then. Stoneman being chased down by Carter. I think Carter needs do or die, and I think the answer at the moment is probably die with how far back he is, Cam.
Yeah, it's looking like that position's not going to change between Stoneman and Carter at the moment.
Watch the traffic.
Looking fairly comfortable, but there is traffic just ahead of him. It's going to be interesting to see whether he gets held up a lot. He doesn't get held up, and it's looking like he's going to have that position fairly comfortably, but Carter's tried everything he could, but Stoneman's going to hold on to that final top 10 position.
Oh, he is. And now you see the final few drivers looking to charge back through. McAvoy, though, in his own scrap with Hayden Veld. And Veld, very quiet day from him, but very, very good result for Hayden Veld and the battle that he's been having. But my goodness me, that's probably one of the craziest races, Reese, I have ever commentated on, and I've done max bands.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Well, the West End Mazda GT Challenge that was, and it really proves that even in shorter races at Mount Panorama, it's all about who can survive. You know, this track is famous for endurance racing, but oh, goodness me, it still bites when the races are a mere 22 laps long. Cody Bircher, though, was the one who managed to weather it all and take victory. Brian Borg, too. Good performance from both of those guys.
Good performance from them. Let's get ourselves classified results then. Here from this OSR GT Challenge. And Cody Bircher takes the victory. 1.5 seconds in the end from a resilient Brian Borg, who was charging on fresher tyres, but was unable to make anything happen. Trent Thomas comes and gets the podium away from Jacob Knight, who had a stunning race of his own, 15th. Up to 4th. Nathan Anderson, quiet drive to 5th, with Hayden Dodman running into issues and only getting as high as 6th place. Paul Mansell finishes 7th ahead of Ashley Lear, with Daniel Misdale in 9th place and Philip Stoneman rounding out the top 10.
In 11th, we will find Daryl Carter. Colin Schwecke making his way up from 22nd to 12th. Robert Northway, 24th to 13th. Good run from him. Ryan Jones. Goodness me, that could have been a fantastic result for him, but a mistake in the last few laps means that he's relegated to 14th. Tyson McAvoy from 30th to 15th. Another good run with Hayden Veld in 16th. The top 20 rounded out by Pat Gallo, Martin Silvassi, Alex Court, and Rob Crouch.
In 21st, we have Mike Ford, who unfortunately had that engine moment after being hit from behind late in the race. 22nd will go to David Martin, followed by Katie Taranto in 23rd. 24th to Chris Radicic and Scott Goodman in 25th. 26th, Matthew Norris and Sam Sutton in 27th. 28th will go to Joshua and Drew, and rounding out the top 30 will be Harrison Cole and Rod Lynn.
And we've got a lot of retirements. Only about 24 drivers finished then this event. Some of the retirements do include the likes of Mark Samuel, Gene Finnis, Jack Lemon, talking about the likes of Michael Spithill, Michael Trooper, talking Harry Edwards, Luis Paulo Galon running into issues, as did Alexander Bird. Both of them started 1 and 2, and Daniel Williams, who was 4th position on the grid. The likes of Clint Smith also running into his own troubles as well. Not ideal for a lot of drivers then in this field, but we're going to step aside and clear up the track, and it will be a lot of time to clear this track up after the amount of damage and carnage that we've seen in this last race. Top 15 shootout coming from Mount Panorama.
Nestled in vast, picturesque country New South Wales, right next to the big town of Bathurst, to many motorsport fans, Mount Panorama Circuit needs no introduction. It is the Australian racetrack, the place where people plan pilgrimages, the Southern Hemisphere's answer to Spa, Suzuka and the Nürburgring, all in one insane piece of road. It is fast, it follows the terrain, and walls are close at all times. Only the best triumph here, both in real life and in sim racing. Mount Panorama is subject to more waxing lyrical and commentary cliches than any other track in Australia, but suffice to say that that is not without very good reason. Like many of the tracks we visit for the V8 Supercar Online Premier Series, Bathurst's history of motorsport goes much further back than is immediately apparent. There has been motor racing activity in the area surrounding Bathurst since the start of the 20th century. The first circuit used in the region was the Peel Circuit in 1906, connecting the towns of Peel, Clear Creek and Kelso. The second was the Yetholm Circuit, a triangular loop around the localities of Kirkconnell, Meadow Flat and Sunny Corner. This track entered use in 1914 as the host of the first ever Australian Motorcycle Grand Prix. The third was the Mount Horrible or Sunny Corner circuit in 1926, which combined parts of the former tracks and extended all the way up to Palmer's Oakey to create a massive 100-kilometre loop. And finally, during the 1930s, racing was held on the Vale circuit, a track shooting through paddocks pretty much right next to the future site of Mount Panorama. Bathurst, as we know it, had its beginnings in the Vale circuit period. The mayor of Bathurst, Martin Griffin, wanted to create a permanent home for motor racing in the region, to construct the greatest circuit in the world. Unfortunately, Griffin had the problem of the world being in the midst of the Great Depression. The Australian government was not willing to commit funds to something like a motor racing circuit. So, Griffin hatched another plan. He and the Bathurst Council approached the government with plans for an employment relief scheme, a tourist drive going up and down the Bald Hills. The economic benefits seemed obvious, and this plan got greenlit. But as the new Mount Panorama Scenic Drive was constructed from existing tracks on the hill, it was noted that it would make a very good motor racing circuit. How very convenient, Mr. Griffin. Mount Panorama Circuit hosted its first race in 1938 for motorcycles. From then on, the track's fame only grew. After the Second World War, the circuit became the most popular motor racing venue in Australia. In 1963, it poached the Armstrong 500-mile race from Phillip Island, which come 1973 was extended to 1,000 kilometres. As the Bathurst 1000 was born, the legend continued to build, and many of the most famous moments in Australian motorsport history took place here. It was also at Bathurst that Australia's Ford versus Holden rivalry was truly established, as regulations and series evolved with the track. The 1987 Bathurst 1000 was selected as a round of that year's World Touring Car Championship, but changes had to be made to comply with the FIA's new rulings, which stated that they would not sanction races at circuits with straights longer than 2 kilometres. The Chase was constructed in response, but that remains the only layout change made to the circuit. Apart from this challenging diversion off Conrod Straight, Mount Panorama follows exactly the same route as it did when it opened, but with the former paddock fences and rock faces replaced by gravel traps and concrete walls almost the whole way around. Unfortunately for motorcycle enthusiasts, these same walls meant the end of bike racing on the mountain. The last motorcycle race meeting was held in 2000. The whole history of this venue up to the present is so rich and storied that we would need the 6 hours it takes to run a Bathurst 1000 just to cover everything. Suffice to say that Australian motorsport, world motorsport, owes a stupendous amount to the presence of this venue. This track, this race, is one of the greatest spectacles and tests of skill and endurance that the motorsport world has to offer, real or virtual. And now, you get to watch more than 100 of Australian sim racing's best tackle it.
Here of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Will it be Tim Hogan? It's going to be Christopher DeMerritt at the line.
is a presentation of the iRacing Esports Network.
We've had ourselves qualifying and we've had a support race to boot. Now is when it gets serious because it's time for qualification. The top 15 shootout at the mountain. And boy, is this going to mean absolutely everything for the top 15 positions when it comes to the racing tomorrow here on the iRacing Esports Network. Hashtag Do You Mind Jake Sperry, of course, joined with Reese Gardner and Cameron Dance. And Reese, this is pressure. 15 down to 1 in that opening qualifying. They go out there, they have one lap, and they've got to go and put it all on the table. Oh my word, this is pressure which most sim racers don't get a chance to experience with qualifying.
Certainly not. There's really something special about the Bathurst shootout, be it real life or in sim racing, because you know that these drivers have worked very hard to earn their position in this session. They've put everything on the line, hours, sometimes days, weeks worth of setup work and practice for this one moment as they get one single chance, just them and the Mount Panorama circuit here in Bathurst. And in just over 2 minutes' time, they get themselves a position on the grid that is final. And I'm super excited. I can't even talk, man. I love this session.
Cam, how are you feeling then about this one coming forward? Of course, you see all these teams. We see All-Star Motorsport. We see Synergy Sim Racing, Trans-Tasman, TTL, all there, all charging, all wanting to make their names. And everybody understands, okay, it's time. This is where heroes are made with one lap up the mountain.
Absolutely. It is the one lap in any sim racing race that you want to get right. It doesn't matter where you make up the time. You just want to make sure you put in that extremely quick lap that's going to blow everyone out of the water. And it's going to be very interesting to see what's going to happen as we've got the first car about to get out.
ASM Rap Corp, the number 61 car, will be the first one to set a time as we wait for the all clear and go for Benjamin J. Smith to set the time, of course, partnered with Thomas Hinds, who set their time in qualification earlier on. So a change of drivers then, looking to get ready, looking to go, but not just yet. Maybe something not quite right there. So a little bit of trepidation for drivers. You know, you're just yourself on that track. You're not going to have anybody in front you can use as a guideline. There's going to be no one there, Reese, who's going to help you in terms of draft. It is a pure one-lap qualification.
It definitely is, and you've got this track to face up against. Those concrete walls coming down through the S's, through the Dipper, and on the run up to Forest Elbow. They are where so many people get it wrong. But you got to remember the ever-present threat of off-tracks and 0x contacts, for this is indeed iRacing. and we do have an incident point system. And if the drivers put a single wheel off in the wrong place, that lap will be invalidated. So you don't just have to be fast, you have to be precise and safe as well. And it's very difficult to balance those attributes.
Yeah, they have to balance those attributes, and they have to do incredibly, incredibly well if they want to make things happen. Cam, you know, we talk about different areas of the track which are always very tough to have. You've got the likes of going up in towards turn number 2. The cutting caught a lot of people out the other day, or shall we say in the other race. And then you've got that mountain section, which we saw when it came to ADAC Sim Racing Expo and the Porsche Sim Racing Trophy, caught out not only Laurent Heinrich, but Mitchell de Jong as well.
Yeah, absolutely. From pretty much the moment you get to repark all the way down to Forest Elbow, you cannot put a foot wrong. It is full commitment from start to finish. It's unbelievable, the feeling when you drive out on the circuit and get to do a complete flying lap on your own with no traffic whatsoever. And the experience these guys are going to have is just phenomenal. And not only that, but the pressure is going to be huge. Granted, if you do stuff your lap up, you're going to finish at a minimum of 15th place. But that's not the point. You're going to want to push as hard as you can and try and get as best of a lap as you can in the books.
Well, the best that they can do is put the best lap times on board. We're still waiting for Benjamin Smith to go out there and begin his out lap process. So I believe we are just being held for a moment, but on cue, Benjamin Smith will look to go and get himself out on track and looking to get his out lap sorted. Big wiggle already, and you can see he's testing out, seeing, okay, what's the turning like? What's the car going to react like here on this track? It's green, it's brand new, he's got the best of the clear rubber to deal with as well here, Reese. That's important as well. That track is going to be slower and slower the longer that this session goes on, and that's a disadvantage to those at the very, very front of the field.
That's exactly right. The track is currently 32 degrees Celsius, late afternoon conditions here with 19 kilometer an hour northwesterly winds. So northwesterly, that results in a headwind down Conrod Straight, a slight headwind with a tailwind up Mountain Straight. So definitely we'll see the braking for Griffin's Bend be affected by that. You may have to adjust your braking point slightly. You might also be able to push a little bit harder into the chase. We'll have to wait and see. At the end of the day, Benjamin Smith is the one there in the driver's seat. He'll be the one figuring all of that out as he goes around this outlap of his. So this weather, we did say in the qualifying session, Jake, it is definitely of an advantage to be one of the first people out.
It certainly is, but of course you have to fear the unknown as well. If you're in the number 61 Cam, Benjamin J. Smith has been in and around the top 40, has been very, very prevalent when it's come to second split. Now he's got to prove it. He's now in the top 15 and he's got to charge.
Yeah, absolutely. First car on track, best possible conditions you can have as far as the track is concerned. So he's got every chance to try and set as best of a lap as possible, and we're going to see what happens here. Hinsey put it inside the top 15 for him, put it on P15, and now Smith's got the hard job of making sure he gets that one single lap done and dusted as clean as possible and as fast as possible.
Final call then of Murray's to gear up a flying lap. Benjamin Smith, all eyes around the world. Watch you for the V8SCOPS Bathurst 1000 Super Pole as things stand into that first corner, missing the apex slightly though, trying to get out onto the exit, and a slight little slide off of that exit as well. So a little bit rough around the edges to start, heading with the wind in favour here towards Griffin's Bend. Turn number 2 down the hill, charges 255 kilometers an hour before smashing the brakes into this right-hander. And Reese, he's a lot more precise through turn 2. Now this is where you've got to be pinpoint accurate up the hill.
That's exactly right. Coming up into the cutting now. Hard on the brakes, little bit of a dance in the rear end, and oh, that's a bit of understeer, and that's contact with the wall. That might be lap over.
It might be lap over. You can see him wiggling, but I think he's going to continue. He may have just got away with that. And again, another little wiggle and another. So this is a horrible lap for ASM, who may just have to back out of this one if they don't have a time. Another huge slide that goes on. You can see visibly affected there, Benjamin Smith. And again, there's the big one, and bang into the wall. And just like that, Mount Panorama strikes, and Benjamin Smith's lap time, well, if it wasn't discounted already, it's certainly over and done with now here, Cam.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that moment he hit the ball on the exit of the cutting, doing something similar to what Scott McLaughlin did in the during the years that he was at Volvo. Very, very easy to do, especially when you're pushing so hard. It's just run a little bit too wide and just clip that outside wall. So really, really unfortunate. But the moment that happened, I think he knew that the job was over, and he's just pretty much thrown caution to the wind.
Well, he certainly has. We got him in for interview here. Benjamin, we got you live from the car. What happened?
Hit the wall coming up just out of the cutting, and basically that's lap over. I'm just out here to have a bit of fun now.
Well, a little bit of fun for you, but you know, you had an opportunity to really gain positions. Do you think that maybe with 4 or 5 teams making mistakes, then when it comes to this lap, that you felt that maybe a lap would have given you a top 10 opportunity?
Yes and no if people stuffed up, but basically Hinsey couldn't be here, so I was just out here just to experience my first top 15 shootout and made a meal of it. But oh well, it's all fun and games in the end.
All fun and games, but of course we'll let you on your way because we've got another lap very, very quickly approaching. Benjamin Smith running into a few issues then for All-Star Motorsports, but for the moment at least, we now focus to the SSR Watercraft Racing Synergy Sim Racing now with Jordan Ross behind the wheel. And Jordan Ross maybe slightly disappointed when it came to to the full qualification, but of course that doesn't matter. He's setting up now, Reese, for this one big flying lap and trying to be the first man to set a benchmark time.
Yes, indeed, and this is a very flying start here from Jordan Ross. Pretty much the opposite to what we saw from Smith. And Jordan Ross definitely getting into that mode now for this very quick lap that I'm sure will ensue if he manages to get everything lined up correctly. So starting a lap there, Jordan Ross in car number 143, just past the 100-meter marker for Hell Corner. He's lined that up very nicely, nice and smooth on the exit too.
Yeah, he certainly was, and now charging his way up. We've seen only 3 corners chained in succession. You've got to chain another 20 corners more if you want to get anything out of this majestic circuit. On the brakes, into 2, very tight against the curb. Not as tight as Benjamin Smith, but making sure that he's respecting the track limits, and a lot of curb on the exit as well to deal with. Up to the cutting. This is what caught out Smith last time. You can see he's very, very controlled as he heads himself through the cutting, and now through these next 2 right-handers trying to apply that power down, heading to the top of the mountain here, Cam, and this has looked a very controlled and very well-mannered lap so far.
Yeah, absolutely. It's looking like a very, very good lap so far. It'll be really interesting to see what the lap time is. Looking like the car's doing everything he wants to do, using every bit of inch of road, and it's not doing anything radical. It's not oversteering, it's not understeering, although that looked like it was a little bit deep into the dipper there by the looks of it from John Ross, but he's managed to pull it up and get through down towards Forest Elbow. Is it going to be a good run at a Forest Elbow? Gets right up against the left-hand side wall, a little bit of understeer, but he's managed to get it out there clean and down towards Conrod.
And a little bit of a lock as well of the brakes, and onto the Conrod straight with a headwind in tow as well. So charging down the hill to 60 Ks and trying to get a bit more to 70 kilometers an hour, and charging even further to 80, almost hitting Formula 1 speeds at 284 kilometers an hour on the brakes into that left right of the chase, and does a lot on the curves. Got 2 wheels over the first one, missed the second curve slightly. Final corner coming. This is the banker time we're seeing from Jordan Ross, so we'll see what he'll be able to do as he will make the early charge to the line. Jordan Ross and SSR Watercraft set 205.698. Not bad, but next up is arguably the star of Synergy Sim Racing, Reese, and that's Wayne Burke.
Yes, indeed. Wayne Burke making his way down through the S's at the moment on his outlap. And in that Marlboro McLaren Honda-inspired livery, tell you what, that we can expect pretty good things from this one. Wayne Burke having, of course, a big history in the V8 supercar on iRacing, and he is no stranger to Bathurst either, so I'm looking forward to this one.
A winner this season at Interlagos was third position come the end when it came to Imola. This Trackstar racing car is expected to go out there and perform, starting this one at no further down the field than 14th position. Wayne Burke knows he's got to go and set a magical lap. 2:05.6 is okay, but you've got to be challenging the 2:04s. You've got to even be challenging maybe for a 2:04 flat if you really can, if you want to set the perfect lap time that you have available. So set it up. Here's the Marlboro car looking to get going. 89, looking for Hell's Corner, turn number 1. How is his run? Maybe a little bit progressive through. Not as attacking on the exit maybe as Jordan Ross was, but he was aggressive through the early part of the corner there, Cam. That was a pretty good opening start.
Yeah, it was by the looks of it. Used plenty of inside curve, tried to get that mid-corner speed up, which he did quite well. Got a little bit squealy on the exit of the corner, but coming into Griffin's Bend, he's got the inside line pretty well hooked up, coming right out to the edge of the outside. Nice line through there as they head up towards the cutting.
And up to the cutting there. Very, very nice. Not using all of the road there, but still slight lock as he goes through and does very, very well. Now trying to put the power down. How early do you dare put the power down? And he is up in the opening sector. Not surprising at the moment. By 0.04 of a second though, so that's not much at all. He's had to work with heavy over the curb through Solomon Park and the Frog Hollow as well. And into McPhillamy here, Reese. It seems that Burke is trying to leave it on the circuit on the mountain.
Yeah, certainly going very deep into the S's. Is he going to be able to pull it up in time? That's a very nice line through the dipper he goes, through that compression, and he's looking very accurate, very smooth here right now. Coming down into Forest Elbow, tiny bit of a dance with the rear end. He is down in the second sector by only a 10th though, so he could gain it back here in the final sector of the circuit. We'll have to see what happens. He's got 4 more turns to go, and they are among the most difficult.
He was slightly slow coming out of the Big Dipper, so that's going to be a shame there for Wayne Burke, but he's got more that he needs to do. All of the track being used. 285 on the brakes into that left-right chicane at the chase. Over the curb nicely. Was a lot more controlled there than Jordan Ross through the first part, and he may be able to gain that time back because of it. Under the Armourer Bridge, looking for the final quarter of Murray's. 2:05.6 to beat. He was a 10th off come the second sector, and he's looking for something. He finds a 2:05.718. 0.02 of a second. Said he couldn't do it, Cam.
Yeah, very, very close there between the two of them. It's looking like it's going to be interesting to actually see what pole position is going to be looking like at this rate. Probably looking at going to be a low 2:04 at this rate, but yeah, really, really good lap from Wayne Burke there.
Hobbo 88 now takes to the track here, Reese. A driver with a lot of fan affinity, a driver which is probably one of the most beloved in the paddock, and one that now has to step up after what has been a pretty forgettable season so far by his standards.
Yes, indeed. Hobbo's mid-season form has slumped a little bit, but of course that is no discredit to him as a driver. We know what he is capable of, and I tell you what, he loves Bathurst. He loves V8 supercars. V8 supercars at Bathurst, the dream. We'll see what he can do on this one. Another flying start to this one, similar to what Jordan Ross was doing. A little early on the brakes into Murray's, but he's lining it up nicely. Very smooth exit, almost no wheel spin whatsoever. Let's see what he can do here.
And charging towards turn number 1, and again just getting over the curves, and that was pretty much inch perfect there from Brenton Hobson. Not much you could say, maybe a little bit of slip as he was trying to get the power on, but Hobson now charging himself up the hill, looking towards that Griffin's Bend, turn number 2, and looking all the way to the left-hand side to open up the corner as much as possible. Very paint-by-numbers driving, you can see at the moment. Nothing seems out of place from Brenton Hobson. It's all very much in the lines, straight car, which is surprising for the amount of torque. Oversteer that gets it. How close to the wall do you want to get through the cutting there, Cam?
Yeah, extremely, extremely close there. So close. probably could have got it, but he's down a 10th in the first sector by the sounds of it, so that's really hurt him a lot, having that slide. But as he's coming over the top of the mountain, it's looking like it's not too bad.
Not too bad just for the moment, but he's doing a pretty good job of things in through McPhillamy Park and into Brock's Skyline under the Coates Hire Bridge, and looking to try and take as much as possible out of the second half. Nicely and neat he goes, as I trip up over my words, and very nice on the application of power coming out of the dipper as well. Towards the Forest elbow he goes, and it seems pretty good for the moment as things stands. Reese, very quickly then, how do you think he's been playing?
Oh, God, it's hard to say at this point. I mean, it looked like he was really pushing it, especially through the S's, but I'm not quite sure whether or not he'll be able to get this lap together. It seems like he's pretty even with his teammates so far, but he's got the chase to go. 284 kilometers an hour, nice and late on the brakes, nice and easy over the curb, bouncing off there. So he's running to the line now. We'll see what lap time this is.
We'll see. One more corner remains for Brenton Hobson. Final corner, and he slightly misses the apex. Gathers it up nicely, though, at the end, and crosses the line. 205.989. It's the slowest lap of the lot, and that all fell apart through the second half of that lap. Not ideal. Glenn Postlethwaite, though, 4 Synergy cars in a row, Cam, to set lap times. Well, it seems that we cannot hear Cam just for the moment. He has been having issues all day long. But Reese, 4 Synergy cars in a row. DGD Custom now in full pursuit. And Glenn Postlethwaite, he's been up there at the front at circuits like, say, Snetterton. He's got to go and find that Snetterton pace again.
Yeah, and that Phillip Island pace too. Remember, Synergy Sim Racing at Phillip Island. They're a team that's synonymous with that circuit in Aussie Sim Racing. So Posy, he's one of those guys that's always shown potential, always shown a ton of pace. But now he has got one single lap, 23 turns around Mount Panorama to make it work. We'll see what he can do from this one. Glenn Postlethwaite out of the chase now. Nice and easy to start this one. And it's on.
It's on indeed. Easy application, using all of the track to get onto power quickly, and does so. 150 Ks as he passes the start-finish line and looks to start his flying lap. The last of the Synergy Sim Racing cars potentially looking to try and set that lap. I believe there will be potentially one more that will be trying, but I'm not too sure. I don't think it will. But for Glenn Postlethwaite at the moment, he understands as much. He knows that he's got to find the time and set the benchmark of all the Synergy cars, because at the moment, 2:05.6, that doesn't scream confidence, and he's very, very slidey then. A little bit twitchy on the exit as well as he heads himself out of 2, upwards now to 3, and the cutting, using all of the track. But that was more precise. That was exactly what was needed there, Reese, as he looks to try and just ease onto the power. But look at how he's using all of the track, up 1/10 of a second so far on Jordan Ross's time.
He's got that rear end completely under control as Glenn. Looking through the cutting, that was the best I've seen any car take the cutting all day. That's fantastic from Postlethwaite so far. Through McPhillamy, just taking a bit of that inside curb, but down through the S's, we'll see what he can do. We've seen some mammoth braking down through here, but it's nice and easy through through the S's for Postlethwaite. I'm just tripping up on my words now, Sperry. But down into Forest Elbow, it seems like he's been a bit more conservative on the slowdown pedal than his compatriots, but we do not have a second sector time to report, so we'll see what the time is at the end of this one. He's only got a few more turns to go, but it's looking like a pretty good lap from Glenn here.
It is looking good. Maybe only half a car length he could have shaved off here or there, but Glenn Postlethwaite, Possy's got to charge then as he makes his way to the chase. Heavy over the curb, slide though, as he tries to put the power down. He's got to be careful about that. That could cost him all the time in the world that he needed to find on the brakes. Number 95, sliding sideways through the final corner. Desperate to find the time, 2:05.543. He goes to the top, but I have a feeling here, Cam, there was more on the table.
Yeah, I'm sure there was. It looked like it was a little bit of a scrappy lap, but that was fairly decent. It did manage to get him to the top of the table at the moment, so not doing too bad.
Not doing too bad at all, first for the moment, but now here comes one of two Evolution Racing Team cars, this one piloted by Riley Blythe, and this is the Speed Cafe sponsored car as well, so a lot of hope then on this vehicle to go out there and make some pretty big charges. Blythe, an underrated season so far, Reese.
Yeah, certainly. You know, he's mostly been in the background while the drivers of the likes of Phil Sell, Rogers, Greg Gold, etc., they've been the ones that have captured our attention and the viewers' attention too. But Riley Blythe, he's been there just plugging away with a really good season under his belt so far. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do with this one. He's seen the lay of the land. He knows that the track is going to be slightly warmer since cars have been running on it. Now, he's just got to string it all together himself.
What can Riley Blythe do as the sun starts setting at Mount Panorama? Here comes Blythe towards turn number 1, and he looks pretty nice. Takes 2 takes, slide on the exit though, and a bit of a tyre dipped on the grass. I think he may have just got away with that one then, as he looks to keep on pushing. It's a scrappy start for Riley Blythe, and when you're fighting on the back foot, Cam, it's going to mean that you're going to start pushing harder and harder, and it's got to be a lap of magic now from Blythe. 2 takes as he goes into Griffin's Bend. This is not a vehicle he is liking.
No, definitely not. It's all over the show at the moment. It's a little bit oversteering. I do know that their ERT cars have actually been a little bit oversteering. As you can see, they're just struggling to get the power down enough just to get the traction, and it's down 3/10 because of that oversteer. So he is not liking this car at all and really, really struggling.
It looks highly strung at the moment, and now starting to find maybe a bit of consistency into McPhillamy Park. Now the vehicle looks gathered up as he heads to Brock Skyline, looking to attack down the mountain. He's got to attack down the mountain, heavy over the curves and back into the right-hander. Down the mountain, it looks like a completely different animal, slightly wide though, heading through that right-hand kink. After the Big Dipper, and now starting to struggle a little bit more is Riley Blythe, and another 2 tenths go off, half a second down. He's currently going to be last of everyone at the moment, and that's not what ERT want. They need some help for Greg Galton Ford, and Riley Blythe is choking under the pressure, now charging under that Fuso sponsorship Mitsubishi bridge, looking towards the next right-hander of the chase. 283, 284, hovering, blipping as he hits the brakes early, missing the apex slightly, getting a tiniest amount of the curb, and heavy over the curb on the exit. Gotta go careful about that, Mr. Blythe. He will charge to the line, and for the moment, it does not look promising for Riley Blythe. Big kick of tail as he gets himself over. 206.5, that is a full second off. That was not the Evolution Racing Team lap race that they were looking for.
Certainly not. Blythe did not look comfortable in that car at all. You could see over the mountain, the rear end was just dancing around. It almost looked like the body wasn't connected to the axle. It was moving around that much. So Blythe obviously quite unhappy with the car in these conditions. Maybe the pressure getting to him slightly, but at the end of the day, they're still starting from at least 14th position. So at the end of the day, that's all they've got to look forward to.
That's all they have indeed. So for the moment at least, we now turn to MJM Racing, Marlon J. McMullen. In 2012, he was on the cusp of being one of the greatest V8 supercars drivers on iRacing, challenging the likes of Madison down for championships in the iRacing official V8 Supercar Series. Since it's come to Scops, it's been a completely different story. Some have argued, has Marlon J. McMullen gone past his prime? Well, this is the prime time to go and prove that here, Cam. Into turn number 1, aggressive as anything, and getting it slowed and perfect, but that was such an aggressive entry.
Yeah, definitely was. He's really pushing. I know Marlon will be trying to get as best of a lap as he can. We saw Riley Blythe struggle in that lap he did, but I'm sure Marlon's going to do something really good as he comes in Griffin's Bend, hugging that inside, getting it really nice and pointed in, and it's looking like he didn't quite use all the road that he could have, like most of the others have used at the moment, but it's looking like not too bad of a lap at the moment.
Up through the cutting and looking to charge on as the voice starts to fall away a little bit for myself, dealing with the illness, of course. But Marlon McMullen is down 3/10 in the opening sector. This is very telling. The track is rubbering in, and that's 2 vehicles in a row now, down 0.3 of a second since it's come to qualifying here as they head up the mountain. Down the mountain, it's got to be perfect from McMullen, but he can't afford, Reese, to overdrive the car.
No, he can't, and he was a little hesitant on the brakes there coming into the S's, so again, not quite comfortable, not exactly Riley Blythe level uncomfortable, but still, you get the feeling that Marlon wanted this to be a bit better, little bit of a pinch into Forest Elbow. However, it is the fastest second sector out of anyone. You gotta wonder what kind of lap it would have been if he wasn't 3/10 down at the first time.
Fastest down the mountain so far, Marlon J. McMullen now needs a perfect chase and a perfect Murray's corner as he heads down Conrad. 284, blipping on the brakes, searching for that corner. How aggressive is he? Sliding, locking his way through the corner. A lot of trail brake and a double take on the exit as well to boot from McMullen as he tried to keep the power in check. Final corner comes up as well, and it's a double take into the apex as well. That's not going to be helpful. What's the time for McMullen? Answer, 2:05.777. That's 4th, and he did just tail off slightly in that final section there, Cam.
Yeah, he certainly did. It wasn't the greatest lap in the world, but it wasn't too bad. Putting him 4th at the moment, so not too bad. But we've got Brett Loxton up next in the Zuva Racing at 2:09. One to keep an eye on. We've seen him improve a lot in recent times, and if there's one person who's going to do fairly well against those who have already done a time, it's going to be Brett Loxton.
Brett Loxton, who has been knocking on the door all season long of top 10s, looking at top 5s hopefully, but he has been there around 10th to 15th for the majority of the season. For Zuva Racing, they have had some fantastic results. Chris Coxhead at Sonoma springs into mind, but Zuva, they want to be more than just the team that just did well at that one race. They want to prove they can do it again and again and again, and that's why Brett Loxton is out here to set this time in the 2:09 machine. It is currently a Synergy Sim Racing 1, 2, 3, and 5 as things stands, but onto a flying lap then comes Brett Loxton as he makes his way to Hell's Corner. All of the track, little wiggle though on entry, small correction, brings it back together. Not bad, but not brilliant here, Reese.
Yeah, it looked like he just caught the grass by a fraction of a tyre width on the entry into turn 1, but run-up mountain straight seems pretty good. He's just touching 255 Ks and firing it straight to the inside of Griffin's, using a little bit of the curb, but it looks like a pretty clean run there so far. But this is going to be the first true test of his lap, the cutting. He's taking a nice line through here. And that is a good run. A little bit of a slide on the exit. He's just got to keep the rear end in check over these bumps. Same time as Jordan Ross. So pretty even with P1 at the moment. So his run down the mountain is going to be part of where the difference is made.
Yes, and heavy over the curves on the outside, charging to McPhillamy Park and hoping that there's something through Brock's skyline, and he's just slightly missed the apex to start with. Heavy over the curb through the second part, nicely gathered here through the third, and onto the power very, very early, coming out to the dipper. Exactly what you want to see. Forest Elbow looking for, and it's a very good sector there from Brett Loxton. The charge is certainly on for this one here, Cam, as he makes his way down Conrad.
Yeah, absolutely is. He's doing a really good job at this lap so far. It's looking really, really good as he's coming down Conrad Straight at the moment, just on the Fuso sign, heading down towards the chase. He's going to use every bit of asphalt. Yes, he does. Turns it at just the right point, hitting a little bit of curb, hard on the brakes, down and towards the right-hander at the chicane. A little bit of curve, actually not too bad, but it's looking like a fairly good lap as he's coming down towards underneath the Armour Bridge, heading down towards Murray's Corner, and he's going to come through. It's going to be a pretty clean lap, and he's going to come across the line, and it's going to be a 2:05.661, and that's going to go to second.
I think he just lost it there right at the end of the lap. You saw there through the chase, Reese. He was very, very narrow coming onto the exit. Had to wait to apply the power. I think he lost that lap at the chase.
Yeah, just overshot it slightly at the chase, and that probably cost him about a 10th the run up to the final corner. That could have been a provisional P1 for Brett Loxton, but still, the rest of the lap was absolutely fine. It looked like a very good lap regardless. But we move on now to Mr. Jake Burton in the Momo Australia TTR number 77 car. And this one, Burton and Down, they've got a bit of work to do in terms of the team's championship, and I think this particular round of the championship, Bathurst, is where it's going to possibly turn around for them. It all starts with this lap, though.
The Scarlet Pimpernel takes to the circuit, Toyota GT86 driver, and not only that, he's got Madison Down that he will be helping out, who is third in the championship, slowing it right down to attack coming onto the track. Jake Burton, now the first of 3 Trans-Tasman cars to set a flying time. It has not been the greatest start to the Enduro season for them. It was damage limitation when it came to Imola. Now it's got to be more here at Monaco on a mountain, Mount Panorama circuit. Good first corner there, Cam. We saw from Burton, and he knows better than anybody else that that first session where they were 7th, that doesn't matter. Now they've got to fight as much as they can with only 6 vehicles who can go quicker, potentially, than Jake Burton.
Yeah, absolutely. Madison Down and Jake Burton in this car, and Jake Burton knows every bit about what's going to be required to get a good lap time out of this car and out of this track. Being a VRS coach, being a very good driver, being at the Aussie Driver Search Toyota GT86, and same lap time as the last lap, so this is going to be all on for Burton at the moment.
Even through the first sector with Glenn Postlethwaite. Very, very telling. Now you got to keep on charging. Now you got to keep on doing a little bit more. Very, very squirrely as he heads himself through the parks and down in through Brock Skyline, and maybe slightly wide through the opening part there of that section, but nicely gathered up then as he charges down the mountain looking for the Forest Elbow. And look at that. It's pretty okay there, Reese, for the middle sector.
Yes, indeed, and I think he missed out on a couple of opportunities there across the mountain. Through Reed Park, he, I think, turned in a bit early and slid through the turn, and through McPhillamy, he didn't quite get to the apex. He left about, I don't know, a quarter of a car width in hand there. So this lap could have been faster, but Burton is still keeping it together here. Coming down into the chase, let's see how he does. It's a nice, clean run through the chase. Gets on the throttle nicely, so he's only got 1 turn to go, and this is looking like it's going to be a shot at provisional P1.
Well, he's looking for it, and he needs as much as he can. Final corner, no curb at all power across the line. 205.758 P5. Wow, that's surprising there. A lot of work left to do for Momo Australia Trans-Tasman Racing. That was not the ending to the lap there, Cam, that we were expecting.
No, absolutely not. That's unbelievable that they haven't actually gone that quick, and they've only managed P5 in the session so far. So, yeah, I don't know what to say about that. That's just unexpected. But next up is going to be Sam Blacklock, and it'll be another Trans-Tasman racing car, hybrid racing simulations on that car, so it'll be interesting to see what happens from this car.
Sam Blacklock has been heavily overlooked so far this season, missed the opening round due to suspension, but since then has had podiums at Mosport and has shown why he can be one of the top drivers in a V8 supercar. For Sam Blacklock, he understands this much. He knows that he is not in that number 1 top car. He knows he's not even in the number 2 top car. But he knows that with Luke Harvey, he has the potential to throw a cat amongst the pigeons with this lap time, Reese. And he knows, as he's going to start his flying lap, that there is a lot riding on him and his team with a poor performance from Momo Australia.
Yes, indeed. And, you know, I really wonder what the future of this shootout session is going to be like. If we've seen drivers of the likes of Burton and the likes of Hobson falter around a place like this. So Blacklock, I think, will be another way to sort of gauge the trend of the session. It looked like a pretty good run there through the first turn. coming up to Griffins and the cutting, I said on the previous runs, it's these couple of turns that really show you how a driver's lap is going to go. And if you're down in the first sector, it's going to take a mammoth effort to try and claw something back. But Blacklock is looking like he's playing it pretty safe so far.
Yeah, this has been a safe lap, charging up towards the mount, and then the parks that come up straight following. We'll get the first sector time in just 1 moment, a 47.07 for the moment. Good start then from a certain Mr. Blacklock, so he is right on it with lap times earlier on. Now making his way up the mountain, heavy over the curb there, through McPhillamy Park, through Brock Skyline, and again, heavy over the curb. We keep on seeing this, but he is so tight through that opening section. That big right-hander and a big kicker tail as well down the dipper cam.
Yeah, very big tail out slapper there. Fastest through that sector there, so he's not doing too bad, and a little bit sideways out of Forest Elbow there, coming onto Conroy. That's going to compromise his exit and overall straight line speed at the end.
It will do, but Blacklock knows he's got 2 big braking zones where he can gain a little bit more. The next one coming up as he finishes Conrod with that headwind is, of course, that left-hander. 285 on the speed trap as he makes his way into the left, heavy over the curb and getting it nice and straight for the second part as well. Small clip of curb on the exit. It is a little bit tall, but he is okay with it. Final corner of Murray's comes along for the Hybrid Racing Simulations Trans-Tasman racing car. Sam Blacklock crosses the line and does a 205.527, snatches pole position from Glenn Postlethwaite and the DGD Custom Synergy car there, Reese.
Yeah, good run. Very good run. And that's the kind of lap that I think we were expecting out of this session. Blacklock just hit all of his marks. He played it nice and safe. It looked like he wasn't pushing at all, but I guess in circumstances like this, that's what you need. You just need to be able to get it across the line, make sure that you don't push too hard, and the time will come to you. Next up, though, we've got one of the headlines of recent months, Forzan El Nabi in the 097.
5 cars can go quicker, and Forzan El Nabi for Trick Sim Sports blanked by the man who is 5th in the championship as things stands, Ross Rizzo. For Forzan, he knows these Enduros, he's been here before, he's seen how important they have been for teams that he has been with a part of, the likes of Performance Sim Sports back in the day, but for Trick Sim Sports now, Forzan has got to go for it. A victory this year at the reverse race at Interlagos. He understands that he has got to go at a level he knows is really, really rapid. And that was an okay turn number 1 as things stood there, Cam. Not too brilliant, but he's still got himself a lot of lap, 22 corners to go find what he needs.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of racetrack left, pretty much 6 kilometres left at this stage as he heads into Griffin's Bend, hugging that inside, doing a really good job, dragging it out to the outside, using every bit of racetrack. It's looking like a fairly clean lap at this stage, but again, plenty of racetrack to go, and it'll be interesting to see how he goes across the top of the mountain.
Well, we will see. First sector times will be coming up in just a little bit. Small slide coming out of the cutting will not be helpful. 46.9 though, fastest up the mountain. Will he be the quickest down the mountain though? Forzan has found something nice in a straight line, but this is where the Titan Twisties come into play. Through McPhillamy Park, searching for options here, Reese. It looked good to start with. It's looking even better now.
Yeah, it definitely is. Car's looking nice and controlled over those curbs. So, have a look at that line through the dipper as well. El Nabi looking almost. That's the fastest second sector as well. So El Nabi on for a very fast lap here. 30.2 was just dancing, almost sliding the car into Forest Elbow, kind of backing the rear end into it. He's looking very comfortable and very fast. I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of time he can squeeze out of this.
Mistakes can still happen though at the Chase and at Murray's any time. This lap could fall apart for Forzan, and he has been known to make these small mistakes with a lot of curb being taken. through the chase. Fantastic through the left-hander. Oh, probably the best I've ever seen. The chase being taken. Small wiggle, though, coming out to the exit. El Nabi is leaving everything on the track. Final corner comes along then. Left-hander of Murray's. No curb at all, but all of it on the exit. Forzan El Nabi, 2:05.199.
Oh.
That is majestic for a lap time, Cam.
Absolutely is great lap time, but the focus is on the man heading across the top of the mountain now, Jake Maloney in the hyper-stimulated TTL Esports number 92. It's not Rogers at the helm this year, so Maloney's got all the pressure of putting that great lap in. In his words, he wants to do a lap of the gods. Whether he'll do it or not, we don't know. We'll have to wait and find out.
We certainly will have to wait and find out. 46.9 is what we're looking at the first sector. 30.2 at the second sector. That's what we got to keep an eye out on for Jake Maloney. A Maloney who has taken a step back so far this year. Hasn't driven as much as maybe he could have done, should have done. Has had that little bit of respite, but has come back for the Enduros and is now fresh with an opportunity. One of only 4 drivers now who can take Trick off of the top. And how many aces will he pull out over this 6.2 kilometer Mount Panorama track? Final corner, and let's just get a little bit of hush then as we keep and listen out for the first 2 corners then of Jake Maloney's lap. Reese, that's elegant, but struggled to put the power down through 2.
Yeah, very smooth and controlled start to the lap there. Down into the cutting. Oh, he was a little bit late on the turn in, but he can claw that back. We'll see what kind of sector 1 time this is. 47.0, so not faster than Forzan El Nabi. We'll see what he can do in the second sector, though. Across these left-handers, across the top. Oh, he had to back out of the throttle a little bit there, just to avoid getting into the wall, so he might lose more time here. Not the most optimum line out of McPhillamy either. Coming down into the... Oh no!
I think he's just tagged the wall, and that may just be that then for Jake Maloney. He'll continue on his run, but oh my goodness, that 92, that is not where you want to be along with ASM Ratcorp. That could have been disaster right there. It just all went wrong down the hill. Too heavy, bouncing over that second curb. They love to attack that second curb down Brock's Skyline. It can happen just like that. And I think for Maloney and hyper-stimulated TTL Esports, this lap could be done, but he's still pushing it though as he gets himself to the chase, maybe in anger, maybe in frustration, and a big slide coming through, and that's going to compromise the exit as well. This lap's going to be slow if it has one. Tony Hawk on the exit of the final chicane there, and now into the final corner comes Jake Maloney. TTL may have just made the biggest blunder so far in this session. Answer 2:05.9. Oh, you bet it is. It's 9th position there, Cam.
Yeah, well, I did not expect that time to actually count, but they've actually managed to get the time in regardless, so Maloney doing very well to actually have pulled it up through down Skyline there. Very close to the wall. I would have actually thought he hit it, but didn't actually hit it, so he's done a really good job at actually saving the lap there, but really unfortunate. It's going to make it a really tough day for them.
Well, we got to keep on this one then. Thomas McMillan, as I will correct myself and say hyper-simulator instead of stimulator. But Thomas McMillan, you could say the Bathurst specialist, the perfect personification of a Bathurst specialist in the ASM Cash-centric 59. He's seen his teammate, Benjamin Smith, make the mistake. No Dane Warren, no Ethan Warren. It's up to McMillan to make this one work, and it could be magic for McMillan. We could see some Muck magic, Reese.
You certainly could, and you were right the first time there, Sperry. It is hyper-stimulator. That is what it's called. But Thomas McMillan starting this lap, he was the big surprise of the qualifying session, I think, for most of us, aside from the 28, getting into third place. But I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do on this shootout lap. Bit of a late turn into turn 1, not taking as much of the inside curb as you would expect, but that is one of those lines that you can take and it can work.
It can work because it gives you a better chance of keeping the car stable and charging up with the wind helping you towards Griffin's Bend at 254 on the brakes up the hill, right-hander almost all over the curb, slightly washing out a little bit, a lot of bit actually coming off the exit, very, very close to the wall coming out of 2, and that won't be ideal. Up into the cutting then looks McMillan, and it seems that he's gathered up the lap nicely then. First sector time will come in on the board as he crosses under that bridge, that right-hander, 47.1. He's 2/10 down on El Nabi already though here, Cam.
Yeah, yes, it's not looking like it was that great of a start of a lap, but again, top of the mountain, he could make up a lot of time. It's really interesting to see the difference in some setup where you can have guys that aren't suited for the bottom, but they're really, really good over the top of the mountain, and it's looking like really committed. Same as Maloney there, getting sideways in the brake zone, but he's just held on to it. So really committed, getting right up against the concrete walls in really good sector there.
He still lost another 10th though to Forzan El Nabi. He's 3/10 down, on course maybe for second position, fighting it out with the TTR car of Blacklock and also the Synergy car of Glenn Postlethwaite. So Thomas McMillan, well, he's all out sideways. This is a fantastic lap. I can't question the commitment. It has been faultless from Thomas McMillan. Charging towards the chase he goes, and on the brakes, looking for the run, but he slides it, and now the time starts ebbing and flowing away. Now you start looking maybe 5th, maybe 7th, maybe even 9th, like the hyper-stimulated TTL Esports car potentially. McMillan, final corner coming. What can ASM do? They will be no higher than 5th position. A 2:05.7 dead, 2,000th off of Jordan Ross's time there, Reese.
Wow, yeah, and like you said, you can't question the commitment of McMillan there. That was all out, 100%, all the way around that lap. But unfortunately, that's put him down, the best they can hope for is 6th. Still, the fact that they've managed to get into the shootout is something to be proud of, I think. They certainly did better than last year's shootout.
Well, he did spin it at the final corner 1 year ago, so doing well. But now it is the main title pretender in the championship. Evolution Racing Team number 15 and the egg, Ethan Grigg Galt. Now for Grigg Galt, he knows he's going out ahead of Jared Filsell. He's got to set a marker. It's got to be Pole to put the pressure on. No driver so far has broken the 205 barrier. It stands at 205.199, currently by Forzan El Nabi. Here comes Grigg Galt. This is his opportunity to put a big, big message in the championship at the crown jewel of V8SCOPS. Left-hander of turn 1. Nice application of the curb on both exits. Slightly a tiny bit of grass on the exit, but nothing too dangerous at all there, Cam. It's a good start from Grigg Galt.
Yeah, absolutely. Grigg Galt's done a really, really good job getting out of turn 1 there, heading up towards turn 2, hard on the brakes, braking as late as he dares, getting the car points in. And again, we have to remember that this ERT setup is a little bit oversteery, so possibly going to see some mistakes, possibly not. We'll see what happens as he heads in towards the cutting. Looking like it's not done too bad for him though, so the setup, it seems to be working for Grigg Galt as he's now heading up towards Reed Park.
He was heavy over the curb there, 47.0 though, so a 10th down, and I think that curb had something to do with it. He was unsettled, couldn't put the power down quick enough, and this is going to hurt him all the way to Brock's Skyline if he's not too careful. So Ethan Grigg Galt, go careful, says me, and Reese, you'd have to feel the same.
Yeah, I was wincing a little bit going over those curbs. He was so close to hitting the wall on the run up to McPhillamy. Just got to keep it nice and clean here through the S's, which he has done. We'll wait for it's the same time as Forzan there in the second sector, so it could be close. 17 thousandths behind the time of Forzan El Nabi, so it could make or break his shootout here, these last 4 corners.
17 thousandths of a second says he's got to find a little bit more. Ethan Griggolt has got to find some magic, and Heavy as he makes a big charge early on the brakes then into the left-hander, trying to pick up the exit, and does pick up the exit. That's a beautiful exit actually out of that chase corner, and now it comes down to how close can I get? 2:05.199, the time to beat through Murray's corner for Ethan Griggolt and Evolution Racing Team, and it's so close, 2:05.232, and it's not there, just not there, and now it will be no lower than second for Trick, but the all-conquering two-time champion Cam says, I can throw the gauntlet, time to break the gauntlet.
Funny you say that. If Griggolt can make a mistake, Vilsel can make a mistake. These two have been going at it all season long. This is going to be the lap to watch. We watched Rogers last year do an absolutely committed lap to get the time he did, and whether Vilsel's going to do just as good in this lap, we'll have to wait and see, but keep your eyes peeled on what Vilsel's going to do, because you're not going to want to leave the screen with what he's about to do.
Jared Vilsel, two-time reigning V8 SCOPS champion, championship leader, and now can he call himself Bathurst elite with a pole position? On the brakes, the final lap that you will see, hold on to your seats because this could be magical. Jared Vilsel then charges towards turn number 1, Hell's Corner. Fantastically elegant poise through the corner. No effort at all through turn number 1 there, Reese. This is like watching a ballerina trying to do Swan Lake.
Yeah, certainly. Very good run through turn 1, but it's all about this first sector split, and we'll be able to get some sort of measure on what his time is like. A little bit of a slide in the rear on the entry to Griffins, but it doesn't look too troubled by that. Look at how controlled he is over that curve on the exit. Beautiful stuff through the cutting for the final time tonight. Oh, he's just controlling the wheel spin on the exit, looking very good. What is the split?
What's the split? Indeed, 46.9. The time to beat at the moment. We have not heard anything as of yet. Vilsel now making his way through the Frog Hollow. So heavy as he goes 6 thousandths behind, and you could see how much it meant. He was all over the curb through Solomon Park. He's throwing the car at every opportunity. A big lob if ever you'd see one. But now down the mountain comes Vilsel, looking at it. Every single bit of Vilsel's fiber in his body. He knows he's got to go fastest sector 2 down the mountain, and now Vilsel has just got to be absolutely perfect when it comes to the chase, when it comes to this next section. And now for Vilsel, the Conrod Straight, full power, full commitment for the number 1 Harrop Engineering TTR Trans-Tasman Racing Machine. Through the small kick right, into the chase he goes. On the brakes he finds, and now for the chase, it's heavy over the curb. It's a little bit pedestrian now from Vilsel, maybe trying to conserve the end of his lap. 2:05.199, the time to beat. Jared Vilsel, you could argue the greatest of all time, charging, trying to scream a lap together. 2:05.056, just like that. Jared is the king of the mountain once more, Cam.
Done it for sure. Wasn't a 4, but it's enough to get in pole position for tomorrow's race. Great lap from Jared there, committed as you'll see, and yeah, you cannot describe it in words. Perfect execution, perfect exits. A little bit scrappy with the wheel spin in places, but not a lap you can't discount, that's for sure.
That's a fantastic lap. And let's get ourselves a replay of this lap with Jared Vilsel and Reese. Just take us through it, because that is just magical.
Yes, indeed. Going into turn 1 looked beautifully poised. Just a fantastic run. But, you know, as he came up through the straight up towards Griffin's Bend, it was certainly something to behold. And, you know, Griffin's Bend, it's one of those turns that you need to be really careful with. You have to keep to the inside. He managed to do that. He managed to get it done. And It was just great coming up to the cutting as well. Just controlling the wheel spin, coming up to Reed and Sulman. That first sector split was part of what really got it together. And I tell you what, the run across the top of the mountain looked supremely poised and committed. Just amazing. He used a bit of the curb on the entry to Sulman. Coming up to McPhillamy, he just touched the curb. And then coming down the mountain, that is where the time is really made up. And he managed to just ride that curb and keep the car nice and stable. That is that's very significant. He almost had a bit of an oversteer moment into the dipper, backing it in there. And you know what? Running into Forest Elbow was the most controlled I've seen anybody tonight. And he managed to make it work. It was all about the exit, coming onto Conrod Straight. He could take a little bit of an opportunity to have a rest. He could take an opportunity to gear himself up for those last few corners. And that run through the chase, you know, it wasn't the most spectacular I'd seen of the night, but he managed to get the job done. Slowed it down a bit more, used a bit more of the curb, and that, I think, was what allowed him to get a good run. And then it was just one more corner, and that was that, a 2:05.056. Jared Filsell, your pole man, and we are going to bring in Jared Filsell and Josh Muggleton into the commentary box. And Jake, you can take it away.
I certainly can. Jared, let's talk about that lap. Majestic 2:05 flat, though, to make that work. You see how Trick put in the time that pretty much worries everyone on a 2:05.199. You just throw a tenth and a half in his face and go, you know what? You're at a good level. I can hit much more. How is the confidence feeling now after that sort of lap time?
Yeah, pretty good actually. Thought it was going to be a bit tighter than that. Seeing though the track temps were up and the times were actually quite slower than what I'd anticipated, so it was definitely pretty tight there. But yeah, no, couldn't be happier with P1. I feel like it's almost gifted because Rogers isn't doing quali tonight because he's got Pro Series, so I'll take him as they come.
Well, you take every opportunity as they come, and well, looking forward as well, you've come back through the field to get podiums. You've been a victor as well here around this fantastic circuit when it comes to 1,000 kilometer races. 161 laps. How are you feeling? You've got rivals behind like Evolution Racing Team who like playing that fuel strategy game. You've got guys like Trick who want to throw themselves in the conversation and go, well, okay, we can be a cat amongst the pigeons here. Where are you looking when it comes to this sort of race tomorrow?
In my mirror, hopefully. No, we're just got to survive, really. Margo needs to get through his stints without any trouble. Same with me. I think once we get to probably the 80 lap to 100 mark, we should be the race should be pretty much well settled. As in, the field's probably not as condensed as what it would be, but I think a safety car could throw that out of the ballpark like it usually does. But looking forward to it. Actually, it should be a very good race.
And Josh, you've just seen, shall we say, your partner for this event put in a fantastic time, and you've got yourself pole position. Now it's about turning a good qualifying into an application from a good race. We saw how close it was at Imola, how it was a challenge all the way to the line. Are you expecting the same thing to happen here at this fantastic track?
Oh, I think it's always going to be close here in V8SCOPS because it's such a high level of competition. But I think we're much better prepared this time round. We've got a good direction with setup, which we can tune either way in the warm up session tomorrow before the big one. So yeah, we'll just take it as it comes and keep our nose out of trouble. And as everyone says, you just buy a ticket towards the end there. So we'll do the best that we can and look forward to seeing where we finish.
Shout out sponsors. Who gets it done for the Harrops Engineering car?
Harrop Engineering, obviously. Yeah, they've been a great support. It's nice to see the Harrop number one car in P1. So yeah, I can't thank them enough.
We can't thank Jared Filsell's say other half. there just in the background, but no worries at all. Jared Filsell and Josh Muggleton taking some fantastic works away. But Reese, you found the man who, for the longest time, thought, okay, you're head and shoulders above the field. One step off. It's Trick Sim Sports, Forzan El Nabi.
Yes, indeed. Forzan, welcome to the commentary box. That was, I think, one of the coolest laps of the night to watch, and certainly we were surprised to see you holding provisional P1. How surprised were you?
Cheers. No, thank you very much. I wasn't too surprised, to be honest. It's more of what I've expected of myself, sorry. So, yeah, I've been a bit conservative the last couple of shootouts I've done. So I reckon I gave it a red hot go tonight, and yeah, I'm really happy with the lap I did.
Well, certainly you guys in that 097 car are going to be getting off the grid on the front row tomorrow. So are you casting your mind forward to that already, or is it time to just sit back, recalibrate, and take tomorrow when it comes?
Yeah, pretty much. I think it's just pretty much relax tonight and get ready for tomorrow. Try not to overthink the race too much and just let the race come to you. So yeah, it's just about not overthinking it and just doing the job tomorrow, because yeah, we know we got a good race car, we got good pace this week, and yeah, it's about doing the job tomorrow. Yeah, hopefully it goes our way.
Well, you certainly did the job today. Who would you like to thank before we let you go?
Just every one of the boys at Trek. They all did really well with helping me throughout this week. So yeah, just big thanks to them, and just big thanks to all the support and the broadcast chat and everyone who's supporting. And just cheers to you guys as well.
Thank you very much, Forzan El Nabi. Mr. Sperry, we got a couple more driver interviews to go before we
get to the end. Yes, we do.
Yes.
Let's get then into conversation. Sam Blacklock standing by with Cameron Dance.
Sam, you didn't quite get pole, but you're going to be happy with that result, especially to make it a Kiwi 2-3. Mate, great lap.
Yeah, thanks. I was a bit disappointed, to be honest. I just a bit sloppy, and the car was all over the place, and I probably didn't make the most of the grip I had, and yeah, unfortunately, I think I could have done a much better job, but oh well. P4's definitely a lot safer than you're further down the grid, so yeah.
Yeah, absolutely right. And with that lap, granted, it didn't look like it was the best, but where do you think you could have possibly found some time, or was it the car that was more or less holding you up?
I don't think it was the car. I think it was more me. I reckon I was a bit conservative coming down the hill, but then I had a few moments getting on the power, like out of the dipper and coming onto Conrod. So I think that's where I lost most of my time, and I think that's where the gap between me and the other three cars probably originated, was those two corners.
Yes, well, heading into tomorrow, obviously, 1,000 kilometers, 161 laps, very long race, very long day. What's going to be the end goal? Obviously, survival is going to be one, but are you going to be hoping to try and at least get a podium, or what's the aim more or less for you guys?
Oh yeah, for sure. Podium here would be absolutely awesome. So we'll just do what we can to push through the race and see where we end up.
Well, anyway, who gets done for you guys at Trans-Tasman Race?
Just a massive shout out to HRS and and obviously the people behind the scenes, and Jared for all the work on the setup and stuff. Jake, pretty much everyone in the team's helped this week, so it's been really good.
Yes, well, congratulations on the lap regardless, and we will see how you guys go tomorrow. Sperry, I believe you are standing by.
I am. I found the Scarlet Pimpernel himself, Jake Burton, P10 though, when it comes to qualifying. I don't want to get on your bad side, Jake Burton, but what went wrong?
I didn't put the lap together, Jake. poorly executed lap from me. I've had pretty good history with shootout laps. I think a second and a fourth, but yeah, just today I didn't put it together. Track temp threw me a bit. I'd done a little bit of practice earlier in the week on late afternoon, and most of the servers I'd got was sort of between 24 and 28 degrees. So when the 32 came out, it kind of startled me a bit, and just just overdrove the car a bit, pushed it too hard, and had to recover from some fairly large understeer moments, particularly through Sulman Park, which hurt me a bit. But either way, 161 laps, 10th place is not a bad place to be starting from.
Not a bad place at all, but you're looking at this field, you've now got 9 vehicles you've got to try and weave your way through, and of course you've got Madison down to help you out as well. Do you feel like when it comes to this race, and you have work to do and there are positions, how much of the patience factor comes into a track like this?
Oh, heaps. You can only see it every year when we run this race. Usually, like you've seen some huge surprises over the years. I remember when Scott Stevens, I think a few years ago, put it on the podium in this race. It's a race of attrition, and keeping it out of those walls, and just, I think Jared said earlier, buying your ticket to the end is hugely important. And yeah, also I don't really think qualifying is particularly indicative. So yeah, I think it's going to be a really, really interesting race.
Oh, you bet it is going to be then. So Jake Burton, 10th position for Momo Australia's qualifying, the constructors' leading car. But before we get things over and done with, Reese, final thoughts coming out of qualifying.
Bring on tomorrow. That's my final thoughts. Honestly, we saw some fantastic driving in this session. We saw a few drivers coming to the fore that we may not necessarily have expected. I'm really interested to see how Trick Sim Sports go, but also the Zuva Racing guys. You got to remember, they managed to put their drivers into 6th place, and that is a fantastic run from those guys. So I'm going to keep an eye on the 209 tomorrow for sure. Marlon McMullen as well. Keep a lookout for him. But that 92 car, goodness me, starting from 12th position, what will Maloney and Rogers be able to do? That's the question I'm asking.
There's a lot of questions that need to be asked, and the only way you will find that out is tomorrow on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure that you check them out, as well as what's happening in 1 hour's time, the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, and can Martin Kroenke extend his gap at the top? That's going to be all the questions that need to be asked, but for the time being, that was Cameron Dance, that was Reese Gardner, that was also a certain Mr. J. Kennedy behind in the cameras. I'm hashtag Do You Mind Jake Sperry. Jared's top of the mountain. He's been there before, but we've seen so many times that 161 laps here compared to anywhere else, you wouldn't trade it for the world. Make sure you tune in tomorrow for the V8SCOPS Bathurst 1000, the crown jewel of motorsport in Australian sim racing.